Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 367 on Sifted Games at SIFTD.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, I'm your host as we head on into the Thanksgiving holiday. We got one more episode here for you where we're going to talk about games for the next couple hours. And alongside me to do that, as always, is Matt Kyle. What's up, Matt?
Not much.
Excited for Thanksgiving?
We'll see.
You're not going home?
No, I don't go home for Thanksgiving anymore.
Yeah, I haven't done it for years.
Not for like almost 18 years, because I think we both learned that lesson when we moved down here. It was like we drove up the first year, and it took us like 12 hours to get back.
Yep.
And then like I flew out the next year, and it was worse.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what, Mom? I'm just not gonna come home anymore. Thanksgiving's not really a big deal in our family, so it's like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'll see you in a few weeks. You know.
Obviously, my trip is much longer because I have to go all the way back to the East Coast. And the weird part about it is that, like, my wife actually does go home every Thanksgiving without me. She could. And our families are in the same town, so, like, they're doing, like, Thanksgiving together and everything, and I'm not there. But typically, like, there's so many games that I need to play that I just can't leave for Thanksgiving break. Like, my wife will be gone for, like, a week and a half. I can't do that right now. Like, it's the heat of the game release season. And so typically I stay here and I just work through the Thanksgiving holiday. Now, a couple things to note. I'm not working through the Thanksgiving holiday. So Thursday and Friday, I am off. Just like everybody else everyone else in the U.S. anyway. I am off work Thursday and Friday. So anything you expect normally on Thursdays and Fridays from us, not going to happen this week. But I feel like we have loaded up this episode of GameFace with good stuff that'll satisfy you guys all the way through the Thanksgiving holiday.
You have won the fantasy draft.
What'd you say?
You've won the fantasy league.
Why? Space
Marine delayed to Q2 2024.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. That's a shitty way to win. I don't want to win like that.
Yep.
But that's how our league is, dude. Like, usually that's how it goes. Like, whoever has the most games wins.
It's Suicide Squad that did it.
Yeah.
There was no way to know that was going to happen to that game.
No way. And how do you feel now that they're starting to fire up the marketing machine again? And like,
that game looks like shit.
It kind of does.
Especially after Spider-Man. Like, when she jumps off that top thing, and you're expecting her to get, like, a boost of momentum, and she just sort of...
Yeah.
Snaps into like a canned animation almost.
I noticed that too.
It's like, oh no, oh no, no.
Yeah. Well, it is still coming. What, in February? I think.
Yeah, but
it's still ultimately missed a year by a couple months.
Yeah, it still seems. Well, yeah, but it's supposed to come out in May.
Right. Like, it's supposed to come out even before that, but yeah, that.
I just get it out so Rocksteady can make another game.
Yeah.
Like, just bite the bullet. Call it a day. Like, come on.
Yeah, I hear you. I hope you guys have exciting Thanksgivings lined up. I hope you guys have some time set up to spend with your families or with your friends. I always miss not going home just the day of Thanksgiving because everybody calls me and texts me and they're like, "Oh, we just ate this, we ate that," and I'm sitting there eating like a TV dinner or whatever. like my mom makes these awesome rolls and my aunt makes this awesome like cornflake potato cat. Like, I miss the food part of it. Just the day of Thanksgiving, but I get over it very quickly.
You might miss Silk Song, but you've still got an alternate left.
I do. Not a very good alternate, but I do have an alternate left. But yeah, I think Silk Song is not going to make it. I think at this point, I've resigned myself.
I think we know.
What is going on with that game? What is going on with that game, Matt? Why does that game keep being delayed? It's really crazy. But you're right. I think you'll have a 0 now because of Space Marine.
Because I already had 2 already fell out. Suicide Squad and one other that I can't remember.
Yeah. And then I'm on my last alternate too. Like, if Silk Song falls out, I need to swap that alternate in. Or if another one falls out, although I think I may be done.
I think Silk Song's the last thing on your list.
I think you may be right. But that's typically the way our leagues work. Also, don't forget, like, you guys have your own league going on, the Sifted Fantasy Challenge. And here, when we go to do our last episode of 2023, we'll crown the champ. I haven't looked at that.
Stalker 2, that was my other one.
Oh, right.
That was because my last 2 tend to be long shots.
Yeah. Well, that's what you should do. I mean, but you flirt with disaster when you do that sometimes.
Yeah, Suicide Squad was just like out of nowhere.
Yeah. Because why? It should have not been delayed. It should have easily... Because I got burned last year on Suicide Squad, remember?
Yeah.
And it should have came out last year, year before
it's
that.
It's not going to make a difference. It's like just put it... You're done. It's over.
And my alternate games have not got great scores, but it's better than zero. Yeah. So, anyway, we'll be crowning your champ for the Sifted Fantasy Challenge here in the next couple weeks. And I haven't looked for like a month and a half. It may be over already. That happens with the challenge sometimes. Like, somebody you'll just see like, oh, they got all 10 of their games and their scores are higher than everybody else. Somebody may already know that they've won. But we'll do that formally here on the last episode of GameFace for 2023. Let's check in with you awesome people and see what you guys are up to on this fine week, Thanksgiving week. Let's scroll all the way up here. So, Talimper, thank you for Twitch Prime. Fight TTJK, or Fight TJK, thank you for Twitch Prime. God of Gamblers, thank you. Caleb Faruqi, thank you for gifting all these Tier 1 subs to our crew in chat. That's awesome. MK Ness, thank you for subscribing at Tier 2. I think you just did that did he do that last episode? I thought he did.
I don't know.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to us. Happy Teal Tuesday. I'm not sure what that means. Do you know what that means? Happy Teal Tuesday from Silk Snake. Turkey is a big deal here in Paris. Lots of people expect me to cook dank American food. Okay. Yeah. AJ the Legend Watson is like, wifey is like, see you bye. Yeah, she's a normal person who has a normal job that gets paid vacation days. And so at this point, she gets like 6 weeks or 7 weeks paid per year.
Pretty good. Talking about France. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like French vacation time.
Yeah. Or Europe. I mean, Europe gets like a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, France is in Europe.
Yeah. I'm just saying Europe in general.
Yeah,
like, it's not just France.
I just think of France as like, because I was there when everybody suddenly went on vacation. Like I got to like a major city and everyone was gone.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
Well,
they all went to Paris.
Eric Cartman says, let's go Browns. I guess you saw that the Steelers fired their offensive coordinator this morning. It's the first time that they've fired a coach in season since 1941.
Wow.
That shows you how awful the Steelers offense is. But still, I only need 3 more wins out of the last 7 games to win our bet, Eric Cartmenez. And I said all along, it's probably going to go down to the last week, and everything is unfolding exactly as I said it would. Mike's Q, thank you for Twitch Prime. What else we got here? I think that's it. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Silk Snake says, Teal Tuesday is a precursor for Black Friday. Okay. I wasn't aware of that, actually. I thought that was like Cyber Monday.
That's after.
You're right. So Tuesday, I didn't know there was a thing for the Tuesday before.
Well, they send the things out earlier and earlier. I mean, I woke up yesterday, I had 150 spam emails.
No, I know. It's just really bad. Although Gmail catches most of them. I still have an old Hotmail account.
I'm like, man,
it doesn't catch anything.
I bought one thing from you like 7 years ago, and I swear I unsubscribe every fucking... That's what I do this week usually, is like I unsubscribe from all these lists I'm on.
Yeah.
Because everybody sends something. I'm like, no, off. I bought one thing from you however many years ago because it was a Mass Effect thing, and I don't ever need to talk to you again. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Like, I have a Hotmail account that I've had literally for 20-some years, and it can't filter anything. Every day I check that account, there's 40 spam messages that made it through their filters.
I still have an AOL account.
Oh, really?
It's an email from like 1996. And I use it for like buying stuff and like receipts and like basically like things that aren't like actual communication with real people.
I use Hotmail for bills, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. And so, but so it doesn't filter anything, but, and this is weird, I found this out through a bunch of experimentation and like actual tech support from them. It cannot receive automated emails from Warner Brothers Interactive.
Wonder why.
I don't know, but I can't get any WBID emails on it, and like my account just like stopped working. And finally,
well, it is. And
I was literally on like live chat with the guys, and they're like, "We're sending you this. You get that?" I'm like, "No." Can you send this back to me? It's like, "Yeah, I got that. I'm going to reply to you." I'm like, "Nothing. No spam. No." And he's like, "I don't get it. You have it." Eventually, the solution turned out to be, "Do you have another email?" So I just had to make a new account.
Interesting. That's crazy.
The AOL account would not receive email from Warner Brothers ID.
I mean, it's not that crazy because it is an AOL account. And I'm surprised they even exist.
I'm like, you own them.
Like, does AOL still exist?
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
I guess they don't still send out those discs with like free 600 hours.
No, there's nothing like it. It's just like an email service. Like
you
else.
Young kids may not realize this, but back in the dial-up days, AOL would send out these discs to connect to their dial-up internet, and it would say like 600 free hours on the disc. Like it was measured in like minutes and hours, like your internet usage back then.
Dial-up was the Wild West.
It really was. The crazy part was you could play games on dial-up, and sometimes if you played it like the right time of night, no lag.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really need to send that much data for multiplayer games. It's just any delay in that data is what screws things up.
You play some really solid games of Unreal Tournament.
I played Tribes with like 64 players on dial-up. It's insane. It's crazy. So anyway, it is Thanksgiving week. It is Black Friday coming up. We're going to talk about that a little bit here in a minute. But before we get going, this is our flagship show at SIFTD. This is GameFace. This show and SIFTD in general are supported 100% by our Patreon at patreon.com/SIFTD. If you like the show, if you like what we're doing with our other shows, please head there and give us a pledge if you can. If you can't afford to, you can always head into the comment or the description below if you're on YouTube, and there are instructions to help us for free with Twitch Prime, which is what we talk about all the time live when people are helping us out on the live chat. And with that, I think we're about ready to get into housekeeping for today's episode. We're going to start things off with handhelds. Handhelds are something that Matt and I really do not care about at all. Neither one of us really use them. Not
now that they don't have exclusive games.
Yeah. Neither one of us have a use for them. Neither one of us really promote that other people should buy them. I think the best use case for them at this point is like, we only have one TV in the house.
I don't have control over my entertainment devices, so I'm going to sit in the corner and pretend that playing Spider-Man 2 on an 8-inch screen is somehow as good as playing it with surround sound and 4K. That's the thing that's been driving me nuts about the PlayStation Portal reactions on like Twitter and threads and stuff, is people just like posting like the full PlayStation 5 experience. It's amazing. I'm just like, that is not the full play. No, like the full PlayStation 5 experience is a 70-inch television in 4K with fucking Dolby Atmos.
Yeah.
Okay, like that is not happening on this stupid little streaming thing you're holding. And by the way, I can see that you're connected to a Wi-Fi hotspot.
Well, Matt, you may not want to hear this, but the PlayStation Q sold out everywhere.
Like, I don't believe that.
Within minutes. Well,
like, I think this is scalpers like buying out the stock, and they're all going to get fucked.
Well, I mean, if you go on eBay, they're on there, and right now they're marked up about 50% above MSRP.
But they're not selling.
They're not?
If you look at completed listings, there's not much in that price range.
What are you making, like $25 off of them or something?
Yeah,
at this
like
point?
if you want to sell them for like 25, 50 over, like some
That's
of those
not worth
selling,
the hassle.
No, of course not. But babe, for whatever reason, the scalping community, which is apparently a thing, they really thought that this thing was going to be PS5 level margins.
Oh, well, that's insane.
Which is crazy.
That's insane.
Like, even no matter what you think of the PlayStation Portal, that wasn't happening. Like, you weren't going to sell this for double retail like the
insane.
PS5. Like, that's ridiculous.
And they're a low ticket item too. They're only $200. So, like, even if you sell double, is it worth the hassle? I don't know.
No, you're making $50 on $200 item. I mean, that's not bad, but also when you're involving shipping and volume, it's not worth. I mean, who cares?
Even if it is scalpers,
these things are also overpriced.
They're insane.
It's ridiculous.
Even if it is scalpers buying them, I'm still surprised that the scalpers bought them. Like, I'm surprised that it just sold out no matter how it happened. Like, I didn't think that would happen at all. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little surprised by that. I'm not surprised to hear that they're not making a ton of money in the reseller market on eBay. But bottom line is, if you're PlayStation and all you care about is like, hey, did we get rid of all those units? It did.
Yeah, I mean,
it sold all of them. So,
but you better take that into account when you make more of them.
Right. Yeah, and take into account why you sold out the launch allotment so quickly. That if it's true, if it is, people who are reselling them, you may want to be a little more careful with that second order. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of legs the PlayStation Portal Q, whatever the hell you want to call it, ends up having.
None.
I kind of think you're right. I think after this holiday season is over and people either get one or they meet somebody that got one, I think the sales are going to plummet.
Yeah. If it was a legitimate handheld, if it was a Steam Deck or a Switch kind of thing, but for a PlayStation, that would be different.
Yeah, for sure.
But this is reliant on a connection that's like again, if you want to play it in your house and your home network while your rest of your family is playing something or watching something else, and you have for some reason have lost all control of your life and can't have to go play in a corner, sure, I guess, but like for me at least, like the time, like because like also it's like all these tweets and stuff of people, the reviewers or the influencers who are out there, it's like, I'm playing Spider-Man at Starbucks. I'm like, who the fuck wants to play Spider-Man at Starbucks? Like,
it's just
why would you want to do that? It's just like, if the times I would want to actually sit down and play Spider-Man on that device would be very few and far between, and they'd be things like a plane trip, or a car trip,
train ride,
like travel, like to fill the space on that, which are situations in which you would never have a reliable enough connection to make that work.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not useful.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it,
It's a
internet
cool
on a
tech
plane,
trick.
internet on a train, always terrible. Like, you're lucky if you can even get, like, a web page to load.
Yeah.
Let alone play a game.
I just give up and watch the movies on their
Right.
own thing. Because at least that's tied into the plane. That automatically works.
It does feel like it's something that was released for hardcore PlayStation fans to gobble up and add to their collection, and maybe they never use it, but they're going to go on social media at first to say it's awesome.
Like, I've said stuff like that, and people's like, well, some people can't afford a second TV. I'm like, well, then spend $200 on a TV instead of the PlayStation Portal.
Actually, on Black Friday,
you're going to be able to afford
it. You can get like a 50, 60-inch, I'm not exaggerating, you can get like a 50 or 60-inch 1080p TV for $100.
Not that they're going to be all that good, but it's better than playing it on that thing.
It's a 1080p TV that's 50 or 60 inches. Like, it's better than playing it like this. I don't know. I don't get it. I do think it's kind of just a fan thing right now, and I think it's probably going to stay that way.
Yeah.
We'll see. But also, it wasn't just PlayStation Portal that had a great week. Also, what we talked about last week, the Steam Deck OLED also sold out. And not just, it wasn't the cheapest one that sold out. Yeah. It wasn't the cheapest one that sold out, Matt. It was like the one that's $649 or whatever.
Yeah, because that's the lowest priced one that's actually worth having.
Yeah, it sold out in minutes. Like, gone. So both handhelds, I mean, we're definitely in the minority. Like, most people
know about that,
find value in handhelds.
I don't know about most people.
No.
Clearly enough people to... clearly they know how many people are interested, and they make these companies make their allocate. I don't know about Portal, because we'll see when the scalpers back away. But clearly Steam knows how many people are interested.
Yeah.
I think they're meeting demand more than demand is some kind of silent majority of people who desperately want to spend obscene amounts of money to play games on a tiny screen instead of their PC rig. But at least I kind of understand the use case for the Steam Deck more because it can actually play the fucking games natively.
Yeah.
Like you don't need an internet connection to make this. I mean, you do, but like once you've got the game installed, you do not need to have your PC on or in sleep mode or have a robust network. You can just go take this thing wherever you want and play whatever you want. Great.
Yeah.
At least that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is, though, if you want either of those handhelds for Christmas, you're probably out of luck. You're going to have to go probably
to you either
eBay.
got it now or you're not. I don't think they're going to get a second allocation out in time for that.
You're probably going to have to go to eBay and overpay for it if you want it.
They might. Valve is pretty agile. They could theoretically. I would say maybe like a month from now. And look, people got their Steam Deck in like days.
Yeah, I mean, Valve's manufacturing.
If Valve gets their shit together and gets a new pre-order round up by like December 12th, you could have it in time for Christmas.
You might be able to make it. I would be surprised, though. I think at this point, if you didn't get one, you're going to have to go to eBay or Craigslist and try to find one that way. If you want one, or maybe someone you're buying gifts for wants one. Unfortunately, if you weren't on it, they're gone. So there you go. PlayStation Portal and Steam Deck both sold out this week, proving that there is a healthy market for handhelds, without a doubt, even though Matt and I find no use for them pretty much at all. Next up, remember the Wonder Woman game? We got this little teaser trailer that doesn't show off hardly anything. And then it just kind of disappeared.
When was this? Was this Game Awards last year?
I believe so, yeah. And we haven't really heard anything since. Well, this week that changed, and once again, it was because of a LinkedIn job profile. I'm telling you what, LinkedIn is like the ultimate game leaker at this point.
Yeah, LinkedIn is the new laptop left open on a plane by a Ubisoft employee.
Yeah. So... because, once again, of a LinkedIn profile, someone looking for a job and putting their resume on LinkedIn, or no, this is actually a job listing for the game. That's what this one was. So Warner Brothers put up a job listing for the game and said, in the listing, it said, experience with games as a service preferred, or as a bonus or whatever. It wasn't like one of the main things in the job, but it was one of the things that they wanted in a potential employee or hire. And the people freaked out. Everyone was like, oh my God, here we go. It's Warner Brothers. We had all these problems with Suicide Squad, Kill Justice League. It's been delayed. There's all rumors about games as a service swirling around that game too. And that's why they delayed it, to take out the games as a service stuff. And then we get this information for Wonder Woman. Well, the internet freaked out and Warner Brothers was forced to comment. So I guess in some ways what you're saying earlier about raising, but we were talking before the show started about how if you raise a ruckus, sometimes you can get results. This got results because people started complaining about it, and it forced Warner Brothers to actually comment on the game that they had basically said nothing about. And ultimately, it said that it is not a game as a service. However, they did share that the game is an action-adventure, and it has the Nemesis system in it. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think the Nemesis system is extremely underused. I know it's patented, so people can't use it outside of Warner Brothers, but like, that's an interesting choice for a Wonder Woman game.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess to some degree it makes sense because Wonder Woman doesn't have a lot of iconic villains. You have Ares and
I
Cheetah.
can't name hardly any.
You have Ares and Cheetah and I guess Titania. Like, there's not too many.
No.
And so, and if you just sort of lean hard into the Greek mythology thing, you could sort of probably do like a bunch of orc style, bunch of, I don't know, minotaurs and centaurs.
Yeah.
You can mix and match some.
You can make it work.
Mythological figures and kind of come up with a random army. That would work. I do think that the odds are, to me, the listing for the games as a service experience, that feels like boilerplate. For in part because look, let's face it, once you're done with Wonder Woman, whatever you're working on next, probably going to be a game as a service, and we'd like you to know what that is.
That's a good point. They're like, well, you're only going to work on this for the next 18 months, and we're going to maybe want to keep you after that. So,
and then we're probably going to make you do that. So,
you're probably right. That's probably the truth behind it all. I'm kind of surprised that we haven't. Well, I guess Warner Brothers isn't releasing enough games to even say we're not getting the Nemesis system often enough.
No,
it's just not releasing enough games that might have it.
Yeah, you could have used it for. I think Arkham Knight could have used it.
Yeah.
I think it would be obvious to have a Batman game that did it. Frankly.
Yeah. I'm sure that's next.
Or even if it's just like a taking the mob down thing, and it's just sort of like organized crime gangster guys or whatever, and then you have to work your way up to like the Penguin at the top or something, and in each area or something. Yeah. Each thing could be like a Gotham district. Look, I've already made a more interesting Batman game than they've done in the last 10 years.
And we just spitballed it for 5 minutes. Yeah, that's where we're at.
I'd rather play even a mediocre version of that than Suicide Squad. I'll tell you that right now.
Are you open to the idea that you might end up liking Suicide Squad?
No.
What happens if you start playing it and you're like, wow, this actually isn't
I just
awful.
don't know what situation that would be because it's a shooter. I don't want that. I don't care about. to me, it's like, all right, maybe you like Borderlands. No, I'm done with Borderlands. I don't need to play Borderlands 4. I'm sorry, it's over. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is sort of in the same boat, but I did like that because of the tone and the attitude, and it was just changed up enough to not feel like a normal
Borderlands
shooter.
Release, yeah.
So I like the theming on it. I do not like any of that in Suicide. I don't care about Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad is one of the most dead-end IPs DC has. The only character in that whole game that's made any kind of cultural impact is Harley Quinn. And maybe if that game came out in 2017 when Suicide Squad was still the hot thing and everyone was dressing as Harley Quinn for Halloween and all that, it would have made more sense. But this game feels like it's going to be 7 years late to the party. Yeah. And I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't want to play as King Shark anyway, but I definitely don't want to play as King Shark with a machine gun. What? It has nothing to do with superheroes. It has nothing to do with any of these characters. What are you thinking? What do you... oh yeah, we definitely need... we'll get the kids packing them in as Captain Boomerang with his trademark teleporting... it just sounds like Gotham Knights again. It's just who the fuck wants to... I like all these characters in Gotham Knights. I don't even enjoy playing that. It's stupid.
Yep. Another smaller story from this week is something that we mentioned to you guys a week ago or 2 weeks ago. There was rumors flying around the industry about it, and as it turns out, those rumors were true. And The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is on the way. Not only is it on the way, Matt, it is coming on January 19th to PlayStation 5. So what happened was this story broke. It got leaked out because I think PlayStation Network made a mistake and posted the game.
Yeah, something went up in some territory that had it up for a brief second.
And someone saw it. And then once that happened, Naughty Dog was just like, screw it.
I would imagine this was supposed to be announced at Game Awards.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because it's getting close. You had to say it soon, right? Yeah. So my guess is this was a Game Awards reveal.
Probably. So Jeff got a little bit screwed on this one. One cool thing I would say, because I don't know, I'm in the camp of dude, how much better can the game look? Watching this trailer, it does look better.
It does look better, and I'm sure it runs better, which is sort of the big thing.
That is important for sure.
It's weird that there's no PC version yet.
No.
I thought this would be alongside the PC version.
I agree. I thought so as well. But I also didn't think it was coming this soon.
No, I figured they would try to align this with next season of the show.
I thought like next holiday season at the earliest, but no, it's coming here in like a month and a half or 2 months.
I mean, it makes sense to me that you want to get some kind of Last of Us content out there for the people that got hooked on the show about a year later to sort of like be like, oh, I'll try this now, kind of thing.
And then there's new content. There's this, what we're seeing right now, this brand new survival mode. It seems like it's a horde mode for the most part.
Yeah, sort of a horde mode roguelite thing.
Yeah, which
interesting.
Cool.
Yeah,
like, it's great. It's great that that's a bonus. But I think the coolest thing of all, honestly, is that if you already own the PlayStation 4 version of the game, you get this version for $10.
Yeah.
So they're thinking about the fans. They're not going to gouge their fans, try to get their fans to pay for it twice.
Although you wouldn't know it by the people screaming about this online.
What do you mean?
People hate this.
Oh, really?
I've seen more people screaming about this and how it should be free if you already own it. It's like, look, dude, like that's less than a skin on Fortnite.
Yeah, or less than a fatality. Or that it's like,
it's a 2-year-old game, and they're already okay. First off, it's a 3.5-year-old game.
Yeah.
Second, Spider-Man got remastered sooner than that. Mm-hmm. Nobody had a problem with that.
Yeah, that's true.
Who cares? Like, if you don't want it, don't buy it.
Right.
I don't understand the furor over, it's too soon to remaster. Who cares? Who gives
I think a lot of people are like, well, Naughty Dog could have been doing something else.
No, they couldn't. This was a project they gave like new people,
Nixes or something.
This is not coming out instead of Last of Us 3 or new fantasy property, whatever they were working on that they've never mentioned again.
Yeah.
Like, this is not instead of anything else. This is just something they're putting out to probably just make it look busy. I mean, for God's sake, otherwise
or make it look like there's actual games coming out exclusively for PlayStation at this point.
Yeah, the schedule's a little light. Might as well get something out.
Yeah.
Where's the fucking Sly Cooper collection?
Right.
Like, you could fill that schedule with some stuff.
There's plenty of opportunities there. And it is weird to me that this game is already being remastered, but I think the way I'm looking at it is like, it's no skin off of my ass if they do it.
Yeah.
And I think they're just like, you know what? Let's turn the page from this game.
Yeah.
They don't have to touch this again.
Here's the definitive version.
Once it's made in 4K,
PC version out, you're done.
They're done. Like, and there it is forever, and they can just sit back like Grand Theft Auto 5 and just let the sales just roll up for the next 10 years.
$10 is fine for an extra mode that looks pretty interesting and better performance.
I mean, that's a good point. Is people are getting an extra mode and extra content that they weren't getting for the $10. So. Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with
if they were going to try to charge me $70 again, we'd
be breathing fire on GameFace if they did that.
But $10 upgrade for some extra stuff and better performance, I'll do that.
Yeah,
sure.
I have no problem with that at all.
I mean, I don't know if I want to go through that again.
What, the game?
Yeah, I mean, the game is not a pleasant afternoon in the park.
It is interesting when you think about playing that game again that there's like an emotional toll that you're wondering if you want to pay again.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you. Like, there were moments where I was like, "Damn!" Like,
it's like watching a Gaspar Noé movie. It's just like, I mean, I'm glad I did it. It's a good movie, but it's like,
I do it again.
Yeah, I mean, walking out of Gaspar Noé's climax at like we saw a 10 a.m. show. We walked out like noon. There's nothing more jarring than walking out of a movie or like that, and it's sunny out.
Yeah,
it's like, what? There's so much day left. What am I supposed to do?
Shora F, who is a game developer who's in our chat quite often, says, I think $10 is very fair, but as someone who worked on the original part 2, I don't think anyone authored any asset higher res than you actually see in the game. So he's saying that they have to redo all the assets.
Yeah, well,
that's why people are paying you for it.
It's hard to notice. I've seen the side-by-side stuff, and I can tell that like the lighting is a little better. Like
I think the faces look
a little better. It's more noticeable in motion. Like the screenshots don't really do just. I mean, you can see the the lighting on one side of Ellie in that one shot is like this way in the PS4, and then you look at the PS5 and like, oh, you can see detail on the shadowed side of her face because the ray tracing is there, and you can like it's a difference.
Yeah.
It's very subtle, and it makes more sense in motion.
Now here's the PS4 version. I mean,
but there's no
no slouch.
No slouch. I mean, but neither was Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah. So I'm glad. I mean, I think this game is amazing. I think everybody should play it. Every adult should play it anyway.
Damn it, Tommy! Finish the game. I don't want to.
Yeah. And I mean, it's good that there's going to be a better definitive version out there for every new person who wants to play it going forward, that they can experience it in its best light. So
it's important to have both of those games ready to go for the fans of the TV show.
Yep.
That get a PS5 and want to experience this thing.
Yep. Barry Lomax says,
I do enjoy all the people that are like, because they announced that. They didn't announce it, but I think they did pretty much more or less confirm that Pedro Pascal is going to be Mr. Fantastic.
No.
The Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. And people were like, how is he going to have time to to shoot Last of Us seasons while if he's in Marvel movies, and it's like, oh no, good luck, folks.
Yeah.
You remember that there's a bunch of people that don't know
how things work,
where this is going.
Yeah.
It's just like, whew.
Yep.
sort of the same. Sort of the same deal with the Invincible thing. It's
right.
It's like, oh boy, people.
You don't know where this is all headed.
You really don't know where this is going.
Barry Lomax says, it's funny. I don't understand why people fanboy so hard and get mad. I'm in my 30s, but even if I wasn't, I wouldn't care. There's more to life than game. I agree with you.
Yeah. When even it's like, there are games I don't have any interest in playing that come out every day.
Yeah.
I just don't play them.
I just let it go. Just let it go. I don't even recognize that they're released anymore, and it just has changed my life. It's so funny.
Like one of those developers that just makes like the rip-off anime porn games might have like the greatest platformer ever in them, and they don't make them because they're busy making MILF Hunter or whatever. And it's just like, well, like why aren't you mad about that?
Yeah.
Like as long as we're talking hypothetical nonsense,
right? Mike's Q says, unless they have Part 1, Part 2 remaster bundle, I will wait still. I still have not played these games. Bounced off the first one 3 times. The first one I can understand.
Yeah, I didn't like the first one very much the first time I played it. And I liked it a lot better when I kind of went back like a year or two later and like knew what I was getting into. And then I liked it a lot more, for whatever reason, I liked it a lot more after 2.
Yeah.
Like 2 is a vastly superior game.
It's a different league.
Gameplay, I'm talking game-wise. Like it's just a better game
for sure.
In every respect.
In every way. Yep, for sure. And that way, I'd almost tell Mike's Q to start with the second one.
It's weird, right?
Like, I know, it's weird.
Like, because I played 2 and I really liked it, and I wanted more, but I didn't want to play 2 over again because I just played it. And like, so I went back and because I had played the Last of Us Remastered, whatever the remaster, whatever it was at the time, and only got a little, didn't get too far into it. I got like maybe out of Boston, and then I went back and loaded it up to see how I felt about it, and I finished it. I just like went all the way through it, and like for whatever reason, 2 made me more forgiving of 1's flaws, and still did when the remake, the PS5 one, the new one they did.
Yeah,
that was a lot easier for me to play now. Although they did update,
they made some changes.
So yeah, you're not going to run into that. Some of the reasons you probably bounced off it are gone now.
Yeah.
If you play the PS5 version.
Yeah.
It's not on the level of what 2 does, but it is way better. Yeah. Way better.
Yeah. Mike's Q, I hope that you play both. They're both worth playing. Second one particularly is worth playing. Do you think they'll ever bundle those 2 together? Maybe for a Black Friday sale someday or something.
I mean, I think there's something to be. I mean, probably I would say maybe at the end of season 2. Yeah, you do a little bundle thing and be like, hey, you want to experience the original version? Here it is.
Yeah, kind of thing. I do wonder what they'll do with the show after season 2.
I think it's gonna take more than 1 season to get through
part
story.
2.
Yeah.
So anyway, don't forget, it's coming out January 19th, so not that long to wait. And again, if you already own the PS4 version, upgrade for $10. Otherwise, the game's going to cost $70 for first-time customers. And I think if they play it, particularly in its remastered form, they won't regret that $70 purchase. So, big news coming very soon. Next up, so we talked a couple weeks ago about Kong Skull Island, this god-awful game that was released, and it was published by this company called Game Mill.
Which, by the way, has been around forever.
It has, yeah. I mean, if you go on SIFTD and look at the publisher page for Game Mill, there's just dozens and dozens of games.
Yeah, they go back to at least 20 years.
Oh, yeah. They've been around for a while. Well, we talked about...
they made big rigs.
Big rigs, yeah. I mean,
over-the-road racing.
Yeah, which is one of the worst games of all time.
You are winner.
Yeah. That was one of the funnest reviews we ever did, I think, on XPlay, was our Big Rigs review. But anyway, this publisher has come out with another game that may be just as bad or worse called The Walking Dead Destinies. I was actually kind of interested in this game when I first heard about it because it's... The thing with Walking Dead games is you can never... It's hard to tell whether they're going to be based on the TV show or they're going to be based on the comics. And I'm someone who never read the comics. I only watched the TV show, so I don't really care that much about the comics. So I'm always looking for games that are based on the TV show instead of the comics, and that's what this was. This game is based entirely on the TV show. You can see it has the likenesses and in many cases the voices of the actors who played on the television show. But the thing is you can go back and you can change pivotal moments from the TV show, which to me just seems like sacrilege. How do you feel about that, Matt?
It's a video game. Go ahead and do whatever you want.
It is, but I mean, if you're like the person who's really into like the TV or the film side of things, you don't find it a little offensive that you would just let people manipulate the narrative?
Oh, wow, that's the point of an interactive medium.
Well, I mean, you can make it interactive and not let people completely destroy the story that you created.
I mean, it doesn't get destroyed. The show still exists. The comic still exists.
Yeah,
that's the weird Star Wars fan argument. That's the George Lucas raped my childhood thing. It's just like, no, it's still there. Like, even if you don't like the Ghostbusters remake, you can go watch Ghostbusters again. It's fine. Yeah. And like that used to be the whole thing. That was how they sold licensed games for years. Like, you decide what happens, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's fine. Like, that's a fine idea for especially a game based on Walking Dead. Which watching Walking Dead, half of what you're doing is screaming about how stupid these fucking people are. So yeah, a game in which you can make smart decisions instead of what they chose to do might be a good idea. But apparently not from these guys.
Well, I think one of the problems is how they handle letting you change the outcome of stuff. Like, there's moments in it. How far did you make it to The Walking Dead before you quit watching?
I quit on the second episode of the second season.
Okay.
It's the episode where they spent the whole episode trying to get the zombie out of the well.
Oh.
And they're like, you can't pull it too hard, it'll break in half and contaminate the water. It's already contaminated. There's a fucking corpse in the well. Like, it doesn't matter what you do anymore. You're gonna drink that shit? Fuck you. I never came back. That was the end of that.
But did you see the showdown with Rick and I think Shane was his name?
No, but I know what happens.
Okay.
Because that's in the comics.
Okay. Well, that's like a really big pivotal moment in the show. Yeah. And it does feel a little weird.
Because Carl shoots him, right?
No, Rick does. Oh. Rick stabs him in the heart and kills him. Sorry, okay. I just spoiled a huge moment in the show for you.
From 10 years ago.
Yeah.
In the comics, Shane starts to win that fight and Carl shoots him.
Oh, interesting.
And kills him.
Okay.
And that's like Carl's first...
brush with adulthood
or brush with monsterhood.
Yeah,
like Carl goes some dark places in the comic.
Yeah, he kind of did in the show too.
Unless you choose that, in which case apparently he goes one particularly dark place and never comes back.
Well, anyway, for me personally, I think for most people who watch the show, that scene had huge emotional heft to it. Like, because you didn't know who's going to come out alive, and you knew that would change the story of the show for forever. It does seem a little weird.
I was pretty sure the guy who was billed as the star of the show was going to come out alive.
But I think at that point you didn't know that.
I knew that guy was signed for 3 seasons. So
I didn't. I didn't know that.
But Shane does come back, I think, doesn't he, in flashbacks or anything like that?
Yeah, a little bit.
You see that actor again, I assume?
You see him a little bit, but he doesn't come back as like a character or anything like that. But it does seem a little weird to me to change like that moment because it was such a big deal. I hear you.
It's just a video game.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But what people are mostly complaining about is not that you can change it.
What if stuff happens and stuff all the time? Marvel does that.
It's not that that you can change it, that people are pissed off about. It's how little caring they have for those moments. So like one of those scenes that were very tense in the show, it turns into like this corny like horde mode in the game full of like slapstick one-liners, and like they basically just haven't handled the IP with respect, I guess is the best way to. They made it like a joke ultimately, and that's what people are upset about.
I can't really fault them for that because the IP did that to itself.
It kind of did. It definitely jumped the shark.
Like
at a
that,
point.
It feels like a skill issue here. Yeah. Like I've watched some footage of this, and it's just like that's not how games work in this century. Like this, there's points where this looks like a PS2 game, not necessarily graphically, but in terms of game design. Like this is the shit I would expect from a licensed game 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. But they're not gone. Somehow Game Mill is keeping them alive. So we had Kong, Skull Island, and now we have this game. 2 games that are just awful licensed games, and we haven't seen that for quite a while. Next up, a smaller story from this week. We got information out of Gearbox that a couple sequels are on the way. The first one isn't that big of a surprise, although Matt did just mention it, and that is Borderlands 4. I don't think anyone is surprised that another Borderlands game is coming.
No, although this isn't Gearbox, right? Because they don't own it anymore.
Yeah, I think 2K owns it or whatever. Yeah. I think somehow 2K got that IP out of Gearbox, which was a huge mistake by Gearbox to sign that.
Yeah, I don't really know why that.
I don't either.
Why they did that.
I don't know why it would do that, but it did.
Maybe Randy sold it off so he could afford to buy the Magic Castle.
Maybe, although I think he got paid out very well. I don't think he has to worry about money for the rest of his life. But again, surprising nobody, there is a Borderlands 4 on the way. We don't know when. We don't know much details about it, but we just found out that there's one coming. The bigger
is this This is 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Borderlands 3.
I was going to say, I defy you to tell the difference.
Right. Which I had to drag myself through, ultimately. Like, I got about 10 or 12 hours into it, and it became work to get through
it turns out I had 2 Borderlands in me.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And that was... you hit the quota. Well, the bigger surprise to me, because Borderlands still sells pretty well, but the bigger surprise to me is that we're also getting a sequel to Tiny Tina's Wonderland.
Well, that did pretty well.
It did not do very well.
I thought it did.
No. Not only that, like, did it not sell very well, like, its servers and everything, like, there was nobody playing it, like, 2 months afterwards. It got discounted down to, like, $25 within, like, 2 months or something like that. So I think it sold okay out of the gate, and then it just had no legs. So I'm surprised. Maybe I don't know, maybe they look at it like, oh, it's a new IP, so our expectations are lower. Maybe they thought that was an auspicious debut for new IP. I don't know. All I know is I really liked it, first of all, I should say. I think both of us liked it when we talked about it on GameFace. But that doesn't mean I'm not surprised that it's getting a sequel, because you guys didn't care. Like, I see all the data on the website, the traffic from you guys and girls about what you're watching, what you're reading, and the numbers for this game were abysmal on SIFTD. You guys hardly watched anything about it.
So Take-Two's, in their earnings report that year, Zelnick says Tiny Tina is viewed as the best new franchise launch from 2K in several years. Over 40% of Wonderlands players had never played a Borderlands game before. Take-Two's a company report notes that Tiny Tina's Wonderlands was among the company's biggest successes, alongside the newly released WWE 2K22 and the enduring popularity of Red Dead Redemption 2. So they seem to be really happy with it.
That doesn't convince me of much, I'll be honest with you. That's their financial report. They're trying to put on a happy face for that as they can.
Well, that's also illegal to lie about that in those meetings.
But they don't give any numbers.
No, but it does say Tiny Tina outperformed expectations. Now, that might have just been
I mean, you can just
bomb,
make up what your expectations are.
But that doesn't mean you got to give it a sequel. It sounds like it did better than you might think.
Maybe. But it's still, it's obvious. Here's the thing, Matt. When you don't give specific numbers, it means it didn't do very well.
No,
typically
it means that unless you then spend the money to do another one.
Right.
That indicates something else.
Yeah.
Now I wonder. I mean, without Gearbox behind it, I wonder. I mean, not that the tone of Borderlands and Tiny Tina is that hard to really ferret out.
I mean, they're also very similar. Let's be honest. Like, if you put these two games in front of a lot of people, I don't think most people will be able to tell the difference between.
Well, they're the same world,
right?
So just one of them is a D&D game in the world.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how many people don't get that.
But it's breaking the fourth wall.
Well, no. How many people don't get that Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is in the Borderlands series?
Yeah.
Like that it's
set inside the game.
It's a game they're playing inside the universe of Borderlands.
Well, it only has there's little vignettes that pop up here and there. They don't dwell on it very much.
But it's like she's in the game. Like, what do you think she's in the game? I mean, they're all part of it. I mean, they talk about the other Borderlands characters too. Like,
I think most people just don't care enough to figure it out.
I mean, it's not like it's like super compelling lore or anything. But
I mean, again, like,
I like when they try to make you sad about the one soldier guy dying. I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen, didn't it?
Yeah. I mean, again, I have empirical data that at least y'all didn't care about Tiny Tina's Wonderland at all. Like the numbers.
Yeah, but remember what they said there is 40% of players had never played Borderlands before. How many people on SIFTD have never played Borderlands?
Like,
this hit a different audience.
Yeah, apparently it did.
Somehow. I guess the people that are into D&D but don't play that is a weird target, but I guess they hit it.
They hit it somehow. Yeah. But anyway, a sequel is on the way. At least as of right now, it's on the way. Of course, that could always change. Eventually, they could decide that they don't want to do it and they can cancel it. But apparently, the scenarios were already written for it, and there is some pre-production that had been done on it already. So it looks like it's coming. I don't know if it's a good idea. If I were running Take-Two, I probably wouldn't publish the game.
What else are they putting out?
Right. Well, that's a good point.
And whatever they put out doesn't matter because GTA 6 will
just obliterate it. Yeah. So anyway, if you're a fan of Gearbox's old games or just the Borderlands IP in general, there's good stuff coming down the pipe. Next up, a major game just had a major anniversary. That's kind of happening just across the board right now, Matt, because the industry is just maturing to the point where it's 30, 40 years old.
Yeah, well, also it's 25 years since 1998.
Yeah. So you're going to have these milestones coming up.
And Ocarina is somewhere in here?
Ocarina, I think its 25th anniversary is today.
Something like that.
I think it's today.
Yeah.
Today or yesterday?
In there. I mean, they were all around the same. Like, Half-Life was like a week before Ocarina and Metal Gear.
Yeah, what a year that was.
Metal Gear and Ocarina were the same day.
Right. And obviously, we just had the big 25th anniversary release of the Metal Gear collection. And they're not doing anything for Ocarina of Time's 25th, which is a little weird.
I thought we might get like a port of the 3DS version or something at least, but no, we get nothing.
Well, instead, Nintendo can learn a thing or two from Valve, because Valve is blowing out Half-Life like you would not believe. Half-Life is now 25 years old. I'll never forget the first time I played it and how it completely changed my expectations of what a first-person, at least a single-player first-person shooter could be. I mean, at that point, I was already playing Tribes, so I was already on the multiplayer train, but as far as single-player, first-person shooters, this changed everything going forward. It created how basically these games are structured, how their cutscenes work, how the cutscenes are integrated into the gameplay, how you transition from the gameplay to the cutscenes, and all those things nobody had ever really figured out, or they had tried to figure them out poorly. This game really solved a lot of problems for first-person shooter developers that have stayed a part of first-person shooter development 25 years later. Mm-hmm. It really is amazing. And they're not just having a celebration or having an online hoopla or whatever. They're actually putting out some stuff for this. There are going to be 4 new multiplayer maps. The game will have Steam Deck support. There's cut content, which is crazy to me. That there's cut content that they're going to put back in the game. And there's a bunch of other stuff that they're doing for it, too. Do you think you can still enjoy playing the first Half-Life, Matt?
I tried a few years ago when they put out some, like, whatever. There was some fan did like a remake.
This is it. Black Mesa. Yeah.
It turns out the answer to that is no.
Yeah.
It was a revolution at the time, but it feels kind of archaic now.
Half-Life 2 still works for me because
Half-Life 2 still works.
Has the gravity gun.
Yeah. The physics change things. Like the feeling of the world is more tangible in 2 for sure.
But again, this game is now 25 years old, and it's not bad.
Today is, in fact, 25 years to the day since Ocarina.
Today. I thought it was.
November 21st.
Yeah. And nothing from Nintendo for it.
No.
Which is weird. It's like it's the greatest game of all time.
Yeah, it's like it's Metroid or something. What's going on?
It's a little bizarre. So anyway.
Too busy counting their money from Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. I know our audience is a little older. I am curious, though, if most of them have played the original Half-Life.
I played it. I didn't have a gaming PC at the time, but my friend did, so I played most of it there. We were mostly looking for Ocarina. We would go in almost every other day to the GameStop and say, "Is it here?" Because sometimes they'd get them early, and we'd be like, and we'd just walk in and they just yell, "No!"
Yeah. Cinetike asked about The Last of Us. Isn't The Last of Us Part 1 the original game running in Part 2's engine? A little bit.
I'm not sure what that is.
I think it is, actually. I think it was built in Part 2's engine. So what else you guys got in here? Anything we were asking? Nope. No talk about Half-Life in here. It's interesting. Maybe a lot of you guys haven't played it or it just came after your time.
Well, you're way behind.
What do you mean?
You're still in the part where we're talking about Walking Dead.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I have a ways to scroll here. Erebus Jones, there are literally no cutscenes in Half-Life? No.
I mean, there's no cinematics. There's no, like, pre-rendered things. The thing with Half-Life was all the story was told in real-time, in-engine things happening in front of you.
Mm-hmm. What else? Cinetike says, I played the original Half-Life, but didn't like it enough to play the next one. You played it back when it came out, and you didn't think it was good enough to play the next one? Or, like, 3 years ago? If you played it back in 1998 and you didn't think it was good enough to play the next one, what shooters were you playing back then, bro? How did I miss these awesome shooters in 1998?
Well, I might have. I mean, I knew a lot of people that weren't into Half-Life because they were shooter fans that were into the shooting. They were Quake players and Unreal play. Like
the competitive side.
They were shooting people. They didn't care about some kind of story-driven thing like that. Half-Life was too slow for them.
Contana says, I didn't have a PC back then. Being a PC gamer back then, you were an elite class.
Yeah.
Like, all my friends had consoles. I was the only one that had a gaming PC. Literally, the only one. All my friends had N64s and Dreamcasts and PlayStations. I was the only one that had a Voodoo 2 card of my whole crew of friends. It was way more niche back then than it is now. Cinetike says, I played it in, like, 2001 to clear. So 3 years after. So Halo, you would have got Halo by then.
Well, it depends what part I had 2001.
Yeah.
Halo was the end of that year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is like Half-Life.
Maybe he just doesn't like shooters.
Half-Life showed the way, but Halo changed how shooters were made. Like that was the end of the boomer shooter was Halo.
Mm-hmm. You mean as far as like a campaign is concerned?
As far as just how you approach it, like shooters just became a different thing after Halo, and like Halo is a direct descendant of Half-Life in terms of presentation, the idea of the dramatic story.
Yeah, that all came from Half-Life.
All that like, all comes from that. But like Halo was really the one because it was on PC, because it was on console.
Oh yeah,
that was. I
mean, as far as mass audience is concerned.
I mean, it's unfortunate that Half-Life never made it to the Dreamcast because they were going to do that, and then the Dreamcast obviously did not prove to be worthwhile on that. But
JJ Forcebreaker brings up a good point. He says here in Central Europe, 95% of people I knew had PCs and only PCs. That's accurate, not just in Central Europe. That was accurate across all of Europe. Europe has been the haven for PC gaming for a long time. It ebbs and flows here in the US. It's always rock solid in Europe. There's no doubt about it. And a lot of it is just like the pricing for consoles there is higher, and there's a lot that goes into it.
Caleb Faruqi, that's an interesting question. Who impacted the genre more, Halo or Modern Warfare? I'm going to argue that Modern Warfare impacted first-person shooters more, but Halo impacted games more. I think Halo had more influence overall. It established the Xbox. It changed how you expected the dramatic presentation of games to work.
Well, I guess influence, if it's really just influence, the fact that Xbox is still alive 23 years later, that's because of Halo.
Whereas like Modern Warfare, I think it had massive influence on how shooters are done.
Yeah.
But didn't really change a whole lot about games.
Or the landscape of the industry in general. Because what you're giving credit to Halo for, I give that credit to Half-Life instead of Halo.
I don't.
Because, and even the multiplayer side of Halo, like, I was playing better multiplayer shooters on my PC and my Voodoo 2 card than Halo by a mile.
But better doesn't matter. Like, widely adopted matters in that case. Like the fact that you could just grab...
I'm just talking about influential, things that influence things on down the road. Like,
right, so am I. I'm saying that the fact that you could drag an Xbox to someone else's dorm room and everyone could play GoldenEye style, first-person shooting like that, and then you could go online and do it as well, that changed things.
But that was only Half-Life 2, right? You can play online.
Half-Life 1? Halo.
I mean Halo. You could play Halo 1 online? I don't think you could.
Halo 2 you could. Yeah.
Only Halo 2.
But Halo 1 was like dragging things around and doing the LAN parties and stuff.
Yeah.
Which was old hat in the PC world, but
that was very niche though.
It was not niche on college campuses.
The 4-player thing, that's all. That's N64's credit. 4-player.
Right, GoldenEye, but like
Mario Kart.
The idea of taking that experience and then hooking it up into LANs and then hooking it up into Xbox Live, that's all Halo. Like Halo forced online play onto consoles, basically.
I would agree with that, yeah.
And that changes everything in a way that just can't be measured. Whereas, like, Modern Warfare, I think, revolutionized how you approach first-person shooters to the point that Halo still doesn't quite know how to adjust to that.
It struggled trying to go from its aesthetic to the modern aesthetic.
Yeah, and I think the fact that Modern Warfare not Modern Warfare, I mean Call of Duty when I say that, but Call of Duty still, more or less, forever criticisms people have of it year to year, still pretty much rules that roost, and Halo struggles to find its footing. Like Halo was an important game, Modern Warfare was an important shooter. I think Halo is more important as a game than it was as a shooter.
Yeah,
and
I mean solely because it kept Xbox alive.
And I think the same is true of Half-Life.
Yeah.
I think Half-Life was more important as a game than a shooter, because Half-Life, it wasn't just shooters. It was just the fact that you could present a dramatic story in front of you in the engine without breaking the immersion.
Having to wait for loading screens,
making that all sort of a seamless thing, like that was the important thing about Half-Life. I rarely even think of Half-Life as a shooter. I think of it as a whacking people with a crowbar game more than anything else. And I think Half-Life 2 gets similar credit in the sense of like bringing the physics engine into the gameplay over just sort of having to be a weird thing that can happen. Like, it's cool that the guy falls over and has physics when his body dies, but it's more cool that I can pick up anything and throw it at a head crab. So.
Yep, those years, like the mid 90s to late 90s, it really is crazy how many things and even up until like 2000, 2001, that 5 or 6 year period, it is amazing how many games came out that are still influencing games today.
Well, it's the period where people were figuring out how to use the 3D properly.
Yeah.
It's like, the equivalent is the early 80s arcade scene where everyone was kind of inventing genres every other day.
I mean, I wouldn't be here right now if it weren't for that era, because I liked video games, like 2D games, a lot. I played them my whole life. A lot of people would argue I was very obsessed with them. It wasn't until games became polygonal that it kicked into a different gear for me. once I saw that eventually we were going to probably make it to virtual reality, that's what hooked me in, and that's how I ended up here. Like, I could have ended up being a sports journalist, or I could have ended up covering so many different things. The reason I ended up here covering games is because of 3D games. Like, I had a passion for gaming my whole life. I became obsessed once they became polygonal.
I think I probably still would have ended up on the same trajectory either way. But the significance of 3D to me was when I got the N64 for Christmas in '96, and there was a big New Year's Eve party at my friend's mansion. Like, his dad was a big medical build. He invented one of the valves that goes in your heart when you get a valve replacement.
Yeah.
He was doing all right.
Yeah.
But he had a giant. They would have huge, 200 people at this party.
Parties, yeah.
Right. And he's like, bring the games, like, bring the N64. I'm like, so I brought it, and they wheeled out like this 50-inch projection TV to the indoor pool, and we sat while I was like, put towels around everything.
Yeah. It's my N64.
But we played Mario and Shadow, but everyone, and I mean everyone, wanted to turn on Mario 64.
Yeah.
People that I had known all through high school and had never wanted to touch a video game before were like, I want to play that. And I was like, that's when I realized, oh, this is going to be huge.
I knew it too.
Like, this is going to be bigger than anyone can imagine. This industry is going to blow up. And so when I started realizing there were TV shows about video, I'm like, oh, that's a path.
That seems cool.
That was a path. So
Yeah.
While I don't think I would have had any less interest in doing that for a living, like, if 2D had remained the thing, I think only 3D made it viable.
Paved the way.
Yeah. Like, 3D made it something you could show on TV and not have, like, non-gamer people be like, why are you putting this on television?
Yeah.
Like, and they still said that to us anyway.
Yeah.
Hell, that happened. That used to happen even when we had a TV show entirely devoted to video games, and every once in a while I'd try to put, like, a 2D thing on there, and, like, our boss would be like, why is that on the show? I'm like, because it's new and it's cool. And, like,
but it's no one cares.
No one cares. I'm like, it's Symphony of the Night, dude.
Yeah.
It's just like, people care. I promise. He's like, no.
He didn't care.
No, he didn't.
That's the thing. But that's the thing, though, is that people like him started caring when games became polygonal.
Yeah.
As you said, it paved the way for us.
I
to
remember
when
I took my PlayStation over to some of my friends at Stanford. They couldn't afford anything. They had no time for video games. So I was the one who would have to show them cool shit. And I brought the PlayStation over, and I put in Symphony of the Night because it was brand new. It just come out. And they were so, you remember the beginning of Symphony of the Night does that, like, rudimentary 3D swirl around the castle.
Yeah.
And, like, does it, and then the game started, and they were so disappointed that it was 2D after that scene. They were like, oh, it's not going to be like that castle scene? I'm like, no, it's Castlevania. They're like, oh, and, like, everybody left.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, so that was a miss.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you saw the industry shift from something people like you and I did to something that everybody does. And
these were like Stanford engineering students.
Right,
This was not like a long shot to get them into video. It was like, no,
like they could maybe make the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny. So anyway, every once in a while on GameFace, we like to take a walk down memory lane. And with Half-Life and all these games having their 25th anniversaries, and Matt and I being fortunate enough to actually be there when these games came out and being old enough to understand the significance of their releases.
And that documentary they put out is really good.
It is really good.
And,
I should have mentioned that as well. That's up on SIFTD. It's curated. Just search for Half-Life, and there's like a hour-long documentary about Half-Life on there that's amazing. They did a great job.
And it led to someone figuring out where that fake Miyamoto quote comes from.
Oh, right.
Because he says a version of it. He's like, games are delayed temporarily, but suck is forever. Game sucks forever. Because like that's a paraphrase of that thing everybody attributes to Miyamoto. Like a delayed game is delayed for a time, but a bad game is bad forever. Which again, not true anymore.
Right.
Like Cyberpunk, No Man's Sky.
He reportedly said that back in
Well, so he never said anything like that,
right?
And so everyone's like, okay, what? So there was an article I saw. I can't remember what it was, what outlet it was, but they were like, this guy's like, I wanted to figure out where this came from. So he started digging through and looking at it, and he tracked it like this back down to the thing in 2006. There was another version of it in 2003. He's like, got to be earlier than that. Keep going back. He found a quote from this woman who was on a panel at GDC like 96, I think it was.
Wow.
And she was like, oh, my husband always says this, and it was like a paraphrase of it, but he couldn't find her or her husband contact info anywhere or anything about them, and kind of gave up. And a few days later had mentioned it, and someone said, oh, I know her partner he is a woman now. He transitioned.
Oh, wow.
And that's why you can't find contact info.
Yeah.
So after that, he was like, "Oh, I found her new contact info and emailed her." And he's like, and was like, "Did your wife said that this was something you said?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, I did say that. That does sound like something I would have said because and it turned out this woman was like one of the lead creative people at Origin from like 1988 to 92, and she's like, yeah, that was one of the mottos like on the wall. It was like, and she's like, I think it actually said, delays are temporary, suck is forever.
Wow.
So it sounds like it goes back to something that was a motto at Origin.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yep. So there you go. It is the 25th anniversary of Half-Life and a bunch of other awesome games as well. But this will probably be the last big one for the year. I mean, here we are in late November. I can't think of anything else that we would be celebrating at this point. Ocarina of Time and Half-Life, that's kind of it.
98?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty... I mean, no one...
It's a lot. But
yeah, no one was...
That's it.
I mean, it's like... Metal Gear didn't get much of a celebration either when you think about that collection that came out.
And ultimately, it seemed like it at first it was gonna, and then...
would you like a mediocre re-release, or would you like just to not mention it? Those are your two options.
Well, as we mentioned...
Actually, no, your other option is how Half-Life did it, which is the right way to do it.
Right, yeah. As we mentioned in last week's episode, we're sitting here waiting for the big trailer information about Grand Theft Auto 6. Another week has ticked by. Still hasn't happened. I think the information should be coming any day now. And then obviously the trailer, we're thinking maybe week of Game Awards. We'll see. But in the meantime, there is information leaking about other Rockstar projects. The first being that, and we've talked about it several times on GameFace, Bully 2 was an actual thing. Mm-hmm. It's like this mythical thing that people are like, does it really exist? Did it exist?
There was too much smoke on that one.
And as it turns out, there was really fire. They worked on these leaks came out. They worked on Bully 2 for like a year and a half. They had written the basic scenario for it and just never went back and finished it. They ended up dropping the project. And by the way, this information is coming out because of the Rockstar leaks, which is crazy that this information has been out there for all this time, but people are just now really starting to dive into it and start to dig out like the stuff out of their code. And the other thing that was discovered this week is that there was story-based DLC for Grand Theft Auto 5 that was canceled and then rolled into Grand Theft Auto Online.
Which I've literally been saying for years.
Yeah, and now you have your proof.
Yeah. Vincent points out that Sonic Adventure came out on December 23rd, 1998. So that's your last 25th anniversary.
I mean, I guess I'll celebrate that. I mean, that game kind of blew my mind when I first saw it.
Oh, yeah.
But then I played it.
Well, then you had to play the cat stuff.
Yeah.
It was just like,
yeah.
I got that on December 23rd for my Japanese Dreamcast. I'd gotten, not December 23rd. It was after Christmas because it took a while to import. Because that was when things had to travel overseas.
Yeah.
So until then, I just had Godzilla Generations to play, and I think Blue Stinger.
Yeah, the Japanese launch of Dreamcast was not great.
No, but I remember putting that in when I got home, and I mean, I'd seen the beach level with the orc. I mean, that had been everywhere. Mm-hmm. But then the second level, when the tornado started, I remember I just started laughing.
Yeah, because you're just like, how am I playing this?
Yeah, and I never finished that game in the Japanese version because I hit a point where I just couldn't understand what Big the Cat wanted me to do anymore. But like, I mean, I'll celebrate that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I want to play it again,
but still celebrate it.
There were people asking the other day on online. I saw there was like, how come Sega doesn't release any collections of the 3D Sonic games? I'm like, because no one wants no one wants to remember any of that. Like Sonic Adventure 2 is as good as that shit got. No one's paying a premium for like Sonic Heroes or something.
So anyway. Initially, it was Rockstar's plan to have story-based deal, which shouldn't be that big of a surprise because they did it for Grand Theft Auto 4. They had great story-based DLC for Grand Theft Auto 4. But it's just, I think it's been so long at this point that people just assumed, like, nope, Grand Theft Auto Online was how it was always going to be. But that is not the case at all. Do you think there's any chance for story DLC for Grand Theft Auto 6? Pachter seems to think that's the whole plan for the game going forward.
I mean, I would like it to be. It seems unlikely.
Yeah.
But who knows?
He's even floated plans where they may launch it without, like, the full game. And you may have to, like pay to, get...
I wonder, really.
Because they can get away with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like we said last week.
They can do whatever they want.
They could sell it for $120 and people would buy it for $120.
Do you know what else? Do you know what else came out on December 23rd, 1998? Star Siege Tribes.
Oh, wow. There you go. One of my favorite games
Tribes
of all time.
and Sonic.
Yeah, same day. Yep.
Right there together.
One is still a legend and one's not, but the one that should be a legend is not the legend, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, there was never a Star Siege Tribes movie.
No, and there never will be. I would just like to see Star Siege Tribes, a new one, where they keep it simple like the first game. The mistake they made with that franchise was trying to make it more complicated and complex as time went on. They didn't need to do that. All they needed to do was just keep making the game look better and keep it... I mean, it was still plenty deep. Even the base game was plenty deep. They totally lost their way on that game. I don't even know who owns the IP anymore. And there was that one that released like 5 or 6 years ago that was like a shell of like what it really should have been.
Yeah, so it's one of those lost...
Yep.
Which is weird when you think about like... It's not like it was like a household name or anything, but you heard it talked about all the time.
It was groundbreaking at the time, yeah.
Yeah, it was just like... That was one of the standard things in the PC versus console debate. Was like
we have tribes.
Yeah, but we can play tribes.
Yeah,
and that was like the end of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Well, it's like when all my friends were playing Halo. I'm like, "What are you guys doing? Build a PC. Let's play tribes." Like, why are you playing with like 4 people when we can play with 64 people?
I enjoy that Erebus Jones just got his comment flagged for bullying because he said thief.
That's all it took.
Thief, the Dark Project. You're bullying. You're bullying.
Wow.
You're bullying the thief. Yeah. Guy by calling him his name.
Yeah, Erebus Jones says Rogue Squadron 25th anniversary this year too.
Rogue Squadron was earlier this year. Yeah, N64.
Oh yeah, because I guess that was 96 for the first Star Wars game on N64. Yeah,
Shadows of the Empire was 96.
Yeah, I guess 98.
2 years later was Rogue Squadron.
That makes sense. Yeah, and that's a great game too. So anyway, lots of big milestones coming up. But as we just said, there was a Bully 2 on the way. And who knows? Rockstar could revive Bully 2 at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's sitting in the vault, whatever they want to do with it.
Yep.
Right next to Manhunt 3.
Yeah, but I'm actually probably even less convinced that we'll get story DLC for Grand Theft Auto 6, which is kind of sad. I do think that now that they've realized how much money they can make with Grand Theft Auto
I don't know
Online,
why you do. I mean, it feels like you're going to make a lot more money, bleeding the online user base rather than like charging me $30 for story DLC. I would certainly prefer story DLC, but it feels like that's over. It feels like the Ballad of Gay Tony was the swan song for that. It does, one.
And that was great DLC.
It was.
Yeah. And our final story for housekeeping this week is just a reminder, and if you've been on SIFTD, you definitely know this.
Midnight. Where's Pactor's favorite game? Midnight Club.
Oh, that's right. Pactor has literally been calling for a new Midnight Club, I believe, since the very first episode of Pactor Factor. Mm-hmm. I think that was one of the things he mentioned in the first episode, and here we are.
Any minute now.
All these years later.
Packed in with that TV that includes a built-in Xbox.
Right, yeah. So anyway, if you guys are on SIFTD, you probably already know this, but this is just a friendly reminder to everybody that this Friday is Black Friday, which gives us a chance to run this awesome B-roll we do once per year. This doesn't even happen anymore.
No, how many? These people are mostly dead now.
Yeah, right? You may be right. Or they were killed in the filming of these videos. Because, dang, dude, it was freaking nuts back in the day.
That guy in the striped shirt, that guy's a father now. He has a baby.
Oh, yeah. He took the time to look at the camera, too. Like, some of them are like, this is madness. What are we doing? This is madness. It's really insane.
I'm just amazed how many people go out to something like this and they're like, you know what, horizontal stripes. That's what I'm here for.
I mean, right there, Circuit City. Like it hasn't existed for like 6 years
anymore.
Which is just nuts.
I needed some weird batteries the other day. I needed LR41s.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I went to Staples, nothing. I went to the grocery store, nothing. I went to Best Buy, they didn't even have batteries.
Really?
Went to Target, nothing. Like, I remember when you could just go get shit.
Yeah, it was just everywhere. Well, Black Friday is coming up this Friday. It is still a great day to shop, and we have been very...
But it's better to just do it online.
Yeah. We have been very diligent, though. That actually looks like the Best Buy right around the corner from my house right there, which is
that little side. And a bunch of them had that, though. It seemed to be like kind of a...
I guess they did. But there's people getting knocked... Her wig got knocked off.
The wig snatched. What year is this from?
Vincent says, what's the better outdated B-roll that we continually use, Black Friday or E3 2019? Definitely Black Friday. Black Friday is the best B-roll we ever run.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
What year is this from?
2018 or 2017, I think. Yeah. But some of the clips may even be older than that.
Some of it was older than that.
Yeah, because I compiled this from...
Because it's just like... It's also... It's an interesting example of like... somewhere post 2000, you stopped being able to tell Fresno courses in Fresno. You stopped being able to tell what decade something is.
Yeah.
Like if you show me stuff from like this from like the 80s or the 70s or the 90s, I can totally tell you, oh, that's from this, probably around this time, because that person's wearing this kind of fashion thing, or this person's wearing this shirt. After like 2001, you can't tell anymore. Like everything just flattens out, and like everyone's just wearing whatever they want.
Yeah, there's no trends
defining
anymore.
style.
You can even wear
anymore.
bell bottoms or whatever now. It's all like that.
Could
now.
be anything.
Yeah. These clips remind me of like punk rock shows that I went to back in the. Or actually, the Misfits show I went to like 2 years ago. Their big reunion show. The pits were like this, but we have been very diligent on SIFTD to curate all the best deals articles. You can go to our deals channel, and I would argue it's the best place to find any any gaming related Black Friday stuff. I think our deals
really
channel
wants that bike.
These people really want all this stuff. It's just bonkers. Are you going to do any shopping on Black Friday?
No.
No?
No.
I think I am. I'm finally going to buy... Oh, wow. I got stone punches. I'm finally going to buy a hard drive expansion for my PlayStation 5. I'm finally going to do it. I'm so sick of it.
I don't need anything.
This holiday season, like, I've had to delete so many games off my hard drive. Like, I'm just tired of it.
There was a brief thing yesterday where Hasbro sent out a 35% off coupon to use on their site, and people were using it on that Grimlock.
Oh.
It was working on the Grimlock. They were getting $525 off.
Oh, my God.
3 weeks after release. And I actually wrote them, and I'm like, hey, if you're going to honor those orders, I want $525.
Yeah.
And they canceled all the orders.
Oh, they
and
did.
It wasn't supposed to apply to newer stuff or to the RoboSend stuff at all.
Gotcha.
So none of those orders seem to have gone through.
Oh.
But I was, for a second there, I'm like, really?
Oh,
if I waited 3 weeks, I could have gotten 35% off? So
yeah, but this stuff doesn't even really happen
that
anymore.
I would have shown up. I would have gotten line for.
Yeah, because like it used to be like even though there were sales online, there were always a few items that they would only sell in stores.
Yeah, and they just don't do that anymore, in part because they don't want to deal with this shit.
Yeah, why would you? I mean, you got your employees getting knocked down and their wigs getting knocked off. Like that can't happen. It just can't happen, Matt. So this stuff, it doesn't even happen. Like they don't have the big door rush. Although I will say, like, I will still see a line outside the Best Buy the night before Black Friday.
Sometimes, yeah.
But it's only like 100 yards long, and it's not a mob of people at the door, like, waiting to rush the door. They wait in line, and they all go in single file. Like, there's nothing like this anymore. Thank God. Like, we don't need this stuff. I'm glad we have this B-roll so we can have fun every Black Friday here on GameFace, but I'm glad that we don't have to deal with this
like
stuff
that
anymore.
guy in front of the line, that guy's like 35 now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
These people are...
Yeah.
These people are tired and old now. They couldn't do this.
Yeah. Tiny Blip in History says, where else are you going to get an 8K TV for $40? Yeah.
Well, a lot of the stores you do that at are gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the stores just don't exist.
The stores I would go to on a Black Friday back in the day would have been like Best Buy,
Circuit City,
Radio Shack, Fry's.
Yeah, they're all gone.
You only know if you're a West Coaster, probably.
Or
if you watch Nope. You can see a
That's
little,
right, there's the Fry's
a little like glimpse of the greatest electronics store.
Yeah,
they go to Fry's in Burbank in Nope. Which the most unrealistic part of that movie is that they don't wait in line to buy anything.
That's
true.
They
just walk up and buy it. It's never happened in the history of Burbank Fry's. That's not a thing. But if you watch and it really looked like that. It really did have a flying saucer crashed into it outside. And that was actually all Fry's had weird themes, and the one in Burbank was 50 sci-fi, which is pretty great for that movie. But in Palo Alto, it was Old West. That was the one I grew up going to.
Yeah, they all had a theme.
Yeah. We had the original. I think it was Old West.
Yeah, and they had like a Martian one with a UFO.
That was that one. There was one in Woodland Hills. It was Alice in Wonderland. So it was like a big hedge maze, which is great to find the fucking computer parts you need, right? Yeah,
that's great. Time Zini says they also learned to limit quantities and do lotteries rather than back order and just have a pile everyone tries to grab from in the mid. Yeah, they figured out a lot of it, and honestly, it just doesn't happen anymore. But again,
and most of the deals are the same online.
They are. Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
Yep. But again, every year we place a focus on making sure that we curate the best Black Friday articles for you guys, the roundups, make sure that they're not duplicating each other. So again, if you just go to our deals channel on SIFTD throughout the entire week, we're going to be very diligent to make sure that we post all the best deals to make sure you guys get hooked up. Like your $4 a month patronage to get all our content early, it's our goal to make sure you get that back and then some this month with our deals curation. So hopefully that works out for you guys.
Yeah. The other thing that kind of kills the Black Friday thing is that thankfully a lot of those stores are not making their employees work on Thanksgiving anymore.
Right. Yeah. Which I think everyone's like,
yeah, correct.
Thank God.
As one of them said online, it's like, well, at least now you don't have to deal with every other customer being like, I can't believe they're making you work today. You're the reason they're making me work today.
Yeah,
you're here.
You're here. People would always say that to me when I worked at the gas station in high school. Why they got you working in here? Because you're here.
Yeah.
Because you wanted gas, and they knew you were going to want gas, and so my ass had to come into work today to pump your gas. Like, It's funny. Let's see, we got anything else here in chat before we head on to the bulk of the show?
I think the last Black Friday thing I really did was I went to Target at 3 in the morning, like the morning of Black Friday, to get a Wii U. Because the Wii U with the Smash Brothers bundle, Smash Brothers Splatoon bundle was marked way down. That's how I got my Wii U.
Okay. Fire Native posted in our chat that you can get a 2 terabyte SSD for PS5 for $95 on Amazon right now.
That's good.
I want to literally stop the show and go buy it. I'm not kidding. Like, I just was searching for these yesterday. The cheapest I could find them was for the 2 terabyte was $160. So that's a huge deal. All y'all, if you have PS5s, go get that right now. You will not find it cheaper. I guarantee it. Go snatch that up right now. I wish I could. As soon as I get home from this show, I'm going to go try and buy it. You guys should do the same damn thing. And I'll make sure I curate an article to the deals channel with that deal in it to make sure everybody gets on it. So anyway.
Yeah. Next storage, Japan, 2 terabyte internal SSD, works with new PlayStation, $99.99.
Wow.
The Samsung one's $119.
Caleb says that we already posted it on the site, so it must have been in one of the articles that we did curate. Okay, great. I missed that completely. Minority's asking, what's the deal? $95 for 2 terabyte hard drive expansion for PS5.
Now, to be clear, I've never heard of this brand before.
Right.
So
that's. You also got to pay attention to. You got to make sure that there's a heat sink on it. Sometimes they'll sell you the drive that doesn't have the heat sink on it. You need the heat sink for PS5, and then you have to pay like an extra $25 for the heat sink. That's something to keep an eye on as you're shopping for that stuff over the next week or so.
The Western Digital 4 terabyte is $300.
That's more in the realm of what I've been seeing. Yeah. So
I mean, that's 4 terabytes. That's a huge SSD.
Yeah. Our deals channel, by the way, if you use SIFTD, you'll probably save your patron money, the $4 a month, using our deals channel every month. I pretty much guarantee it. If you're a serious game buyer, we will save you your $4 a month that you give us on Patreon month after month after month just using our deals channel. We take it very seriously. Yeah,
that 4 terabyte is down from $370.
Okay.
And the 2 terabyte Western Digital is $159, down from $229.
That's what I was seeing. Yeah. The $150, $160. So, yeah. Did that other brand, did you see if it had a heatsink on it? The cheaper brand that you hadn't heard of?
Was it Next Storage?
Yeah.
With heatsink, yeah.
Oh, wow. There you go. That's a great deal. It may only last for 2 years before it dies, but I generally try to go for the WD, which is why which is why I said the prices really are like $150 or $160. Those cheaper ones, like, I mean, truth be told, you may buy it and never have a problem with it, but is it worth it? I don't know. It's not as big a deal now, Matt, because your save data is like in the cloud. Like if my save data were local, I would be a lot more concerned about having a crappy hard drive. But now, as long as you're syncing your saves, it's not that big a deal if the drive ultimately dies, other than the fact you're out $100 and you could have spent 50 more and got something that was going to last for the life of your console. So just something to keep in mind.
The reviews are all 4 and 5 stars.
Oh, good.
So it's not doesn't seem to be bad.
Okay.
Almost 2,000 reviews. It's got a 4.7 rating.
Oh, okay. That's great. What's it called again? Next Storage?
Next Storage.
There you go. $99.
Next Storage Japan, 2 terabyte internal SSD, work with new PlayStation 5 console. You can also get a 4 terabyte one for $200.
Wow. There you go.
Or a 1 terabyte one for $55.99.
Yeah. Solve your storage problems on PS5, and it is a problem.
Everybody has a storage problem on PS5.
It is a problem.
That is
I don't care what anybody says. It's a problem. Okay, well, we're ready to head into the bulk of the show. But before we do that, here's a word from our sponsor, LS Creed.
LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted.
Sifters, you know what to do. Go to creamls.com/sifted and get your Cray Mass. Go get your Cray Mass. Everybody needs Cray Mass. And everyone in chat wants Cray Mass. We just... Clear UK Garage says we just creamed. Reminder, people, Thanksgiving is just 2 days away. It is plenty of time to go to creamls.com/sifted and use their store locator or use their online bottle finder to make sure you get yourself a bottle of LS Cream in plenty of time for Thanksgiving. If you don't make it by Thanksgiving, get a bottle anyway for Christmas. It is actually the perfect liqueur for the holiday season. LS Cream mixes very well with warm drinks. Not every liquor works like that. LS Cream does. It's like one of those things that, like, if you're hanging with the family, you can just put a couple dollops in your drink and nobody knows. It's like when you're walking around with a drink, it doesn't smell like liquor and your breath isn't going to smell like liquor. It is the perfect liqueur to use for the holiday season with your family. Or if you just don't want to deal with your crazy drunk uncle and you need something to take the edge off, get yourself some LS Cream. Here's the thing, though. Once you bust it out, everybody's going to want some if they taste it.
Yeah, it doesn't last long.
Yeah, you might want to keep... Or, I hate to say it, you might want to keep it to yourself and hoard it. But
or
anyway,
get 3 bottles.
Or right. Or just get a bunch of bottles so everybody can celebrate.
If I bring it somewhere, I generally bring 2 bottles.
Yeah. And they go fast.
Because you open it up and everyone wants to try it, and then
that takes half the bottle. Everyone trying it the first time.
And then you want like another bottle for like people to actually use for things.
So anyway, go to creamls.com/sifted. They are awesome. Steve, the guy who owns LS Cream, is awesome. He's a sifter. He's a gamer.
Vortex Complex also says you could become the crazy drunk uncle.
That's true.
Beat the man at his own game.
You could usurp the crazy drunk uncle. For sure. So anyway, again, head to creamls.com/sifted. Check them out. They're awesome. And this is the prime season for LS Cream. Go get it.
Look at me. I'm the Cray Mass now.
Now, I'm the Cray Mass. Okay. In fact, we should work on some kind of a really fun thing for that, for his next ad for LS Cream. We should make some kind of a riff on the whole Cray Mass thing, since you guys love it so much. And with that, it is finally time for us to kick off GameFace 367 proper. And how else can we start GameFace that's happening before Thanksgiving without delivering our turkey awards to y'all? If you are a patron or a subscriber to Sifted, we published Pactor's Turkey Awards this morning. They're up right now and live for our patrons. Or, by the way, if you are subscribing to our Twitch channel with Twitch Prime, you get access to Pactor Factor, and it is live right now. So all of y'all in here who subscribe with Twitch Prime during the episode today, you can watch Pactor's Turkey Awards right now. If you're someone on YouTube who subscribes to us every month and gives us that free $2.50, you can watch that episode of Pactor Factor right now as well. Again, if you subscribe with Twitch Prime, you get Pactor Factor a week early as if you're one of our patrons. And so he's already given his turkey awards. And I'll say this, luckily, Matt and I, we're going to deliver 3 awards each, and neither one of us have duplicated anything that Pactor said.
What did he say?
I don't want to spoil it. I want people to go watch the episode. But he has fun with it, like he always does. Also, by the way, Pactor has lost almost 30 pounds in the last month. Check him out.
Is he okay?
He is, yeah. Like, he said he saw himself on Pactor Factor and was like, whoa, like, what has happened to me? And he just started a diet. He quit drinking scotch. And that took out probably 1,000 calories a day.
Who is he?
What'd you say?
Who is he without scotch?
I know. He doesn't know anymore. He's actually happier, I think. Yeah. It seems like to me.
I mean, it's usually better to not be drunk all day.
Yes. So he's lost like 30 pounds. You can tell in the latest round of Pactor Factor that he's cut some weight. So
getting in fighting shape.
Yeah. Silk Snake says, I can't really think of any terrible games this year. I think he might be facetious.
Oh, I think you blocked out some things.
I think he definitely did. So anyway.
Some of us still remember Wanted Dead.
Yeah. So when you have a minute and you're a patron, or if you're a subscriber with Twitch Prime, go watch Pactor Factor's Turkey Awards. But this started on Invisible Walls on Game Trailers many, many moons ago. And we have kept it going here on GameFace for the 8 years or 9 years that we've been doing this show. So we're keeping it alive. We're keeping it alive as long as we can.
Nolan Bozozone says Scotch has calories. Alcohol's sugar.
Dude.
Alcohol is basically just sugar.
Liquor is one of the worst
calories.
things you can drink if you're trying to watch calories. One little shot is what, like 500 or 600 calories or something insane?
What do you think beer gut is?
Yeah. I mean, the reason, because basically...
It's inflammation, but like...
I mean... Liquor is like sugar, just like simmered down till
it's distilled sugar.
Yeah, really it is. It's really bad for you. Like alcohol in particular, like hard alcohol, huge amounts of calories in each shot. Mm-hmm. So if you're minding your calories, this is the last thing that you want to be drinking for sure.
Yeah, that's where a lot of calories you don't realize come from is both alcohol and just what soda, juice,
drinks.
Milk,
period.
Everything. Like just if you cut down to just water and 0 calorie stuff, you will see a difference.
Oh yeah, like immediately. Like you'll lose weight in the first like 2 weeks. So, okay. I always thought hard stuff was low carbs. No, it's not.
I mean, beer is also high carb. I mean, it's a different thing.
Yeah,
but
there's more carbs in beer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a Guinness is going to have more carbs than a shot of whiskey, but like it's still
the calories.
Alcohol by definition is
high calorie, high sugar. Yep, carbs. So anyway, as I said, we have 3 Turkey Awards apiece. And Matt, you're going to lead off. What is your first Turkey Award for 2023?
Layoffs. Layoffs. This industry has made something like $40 billion this year. I believe that's the number I saw yesterday. And we're still laying people off. Yeah. And we're still claiming we can't afford to keep these people while we pay these CEOs obscene amounts of money. And bonuses on top of that. Look at all the people got extra rich already that were already rich off of the Activision acquisition.
Yeah.
Those people deserve any of that shit? No.
No. I mean, a lot of people got rich off the pandemic because rich people could afford to buy stocks when they bottomed out. And so rich people bought just tons of stock when they hit rock bottom. And now they've all made just millions, and because it's all rebounded, it's all gone back, it's all rebounded and gone higher than it was before the pandemic at this point. Mm-hmm. And those people have just made, it's just another example of in capitalism how the rich easily get richer while the rest of us keep struggling to make ends meet. But
I did say when you asked for the turkeys, I said if you also want to say layoffs, I'll just go specifically BioWare. Because BioWare's layoffs were most irritating to me, in part because I knew some of those people, and partly because I mean you can tell it's bad because several of them are suing in response because they did it so poorly, but also because it's like I just there are very few other examples of poorer management in the history of the industry than how EA has handled BioWare.
And BioWare for both of us is personal. Yeah. This is a studio that both of us love.
For sure. The Mass Effect, if you really like try to nail me down on things, I will probably call the Mass Effect trilogy either my favorite or one of my top 3 things of all time. Mm-hmm. Like, just straight up. Yeah. Like, and the fact that they just won't let these people make some. I mean, I do not believe for 1 second that the people at BioWare could not get together a Dragon Age 4 in 10 years.
Right.
There has to be corporate fuckery
there's something
here,
going
right?
on, yeah.
Like, there's more here than that.
Yeah.
And that they're the ones who pay the price and lose their jobs after all these years. A couple of these guys have been working on Dragon Age 4 for almost 7 years.
Well, it's like, look, they've been working on...
And it's not finished, so what are you fucking firing people for?
Well, it's like, so you work on Dragon Age for 7 years... And now they're showing us Mass Effect. We're not getting... It's going to be a 10-year development cycle for Mass Effect. Why are you laying people off? You need more people.
Right. And a bunch of
those people... don't have to wait 10 years to play 20-year games. And a bunch of those people
were like QA, and it's just like, aren't you going to need
them to make sure your game isn't trash?
Because you're supposed to release that next year. Like, you were supposed to release this year and the year before. It's just astounding to me. It's just, and it's just emblematic. I mean, all the layoffs are. I mean, there's been thousands and thousands of people lost their jobs in this industry this year for reasons that no one really understands. And it gets, there's other stuff with other companies that are doing similarly stupid things.
It's like,
but BioWare was the one that stands out to me.
I've worked at bloated places before.
Yeah.
Where you go to work every day and you're getting in early and you're staying late, and there's these people that roll in at like 10 or 11 o'clock. They sit in their office all day. They maybe go to one meeting or get on one phone call, and then they leave at like 3 or 4 o'clock. We've all been in jobs where you're like, okay, some of these people don't need to be here and have jobs. That is not the case with game development.
No.
That is never.
And some of those people go on to have better jobs than everyone else, and you're like, what is going on?
No, most of those people do.
Yeah.
Because they've learned to insulate themselves so that they're never at risk. Those people have learned how to navigate jobs.
Right. They figured out the thing was like, oh, you're actually kind of bad at this, but you're dependable.
Yeah.
Like it's
not even that you're dependable. You never stick your neck out. You never do anything dangerous or
you do the
groundbreaking.
thing, and it's good enough.
Yeah. Those people tend to keep their jobs.
Yeah. The people that are really good or really bad are the ones that get looked at.
Yeah.
When it comes to
because you're the ones you're taking the risk. You may have done something that cost the company some money that didn't work out well, but the next time it did work out.
Or you might be threatening to someone up there. That sometimes these people just like to snuff out some lights.
Yeah, that's true. And you look at the games industry, again, making money, more money than it has ever made by several magnitudes, and they can't keep people employed. As soon as a game launches, almost every game, as soon as it launches, within 2 weeks, 30% of that staff is gone. Just laid off.
And that usually is kind of like how, I mean, certainly like when a movie ends, everybody gets laid off because the movie's over. Or you get moved on to a new project. But it's like, a lot of these companies are like, we know you have new projects.
Yeah.
Like,
because you told us.
Because they're about to do a new project.
You gave us a trailer for them. Yeah.
There just seems to be a better way to do that. And, you can, and there's like a lot of the people, some of the people that got laid up at BioWare were basically what you'd call probably permalancers. They weren't quote unquote full-time employees, but they'd been freelancing full-time for them for like years, like half a decade. And it's like,
they just didn't want to give them benefits.
Well, I mean, to be fair, a lot of them were in Canada and they already had benefits.
Yeah.
Because
they don't need them.
Canada's a civilized country. But like, things like that, or like where you fire all the long-term people because they get paid more so you can hire younger kids who don't cost as much.
Yeah. That's most typical.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Like, because gone are the days when somebody stay with a company forever because the companies won't allow it.
If you can make it 5 years at a company anymore, I don't know how you did it.
Well done.
Seriously, you're that person who was coming into work at 10 and leaving at 3 o'clock.
You see the looks on the faces of the kids, like the 20-somethings I work with and on shooting short films and stuff. I tell them that I worked at G4 for 12 years.
Yeah.
And they're like, they can't fathom the
They're
idea.
like, I'm only 19. It's funny.
Yeah, like I worked at one place longer than you have memories.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny. But that's a good one, Matt. Like, I actually let Matt pick all 3 of his. This would have been one of mine. And it kind of is. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I kind of approach it from a different angle. But that's Matt's first pick for the Turkey Awards, the layoffs at BioWare and other studios as well. It's not just
in
BioWare.
general, laying so many people off in a year where everybody's doing really well otherwise.
Yeah.
It's just it's a little obvious.
Yeah.
You're supposed to hide that shit a little better. You're supposed to come up with better reasons than like, fuck it, Bobby needs his new yacht.
Yeah. They don't even try anymore. Hashtag capitalism.
Yeah.
My first Turkey Award.
Late stage capitalism. What if I told you this is mid-stage capitalism?
Right.
And it can get way worse than this.
It can. Yep, absolutely.
Buckle up.
Yep. My first turkey for 2023 in the games industry is the return of the horrible licensed game. We already talked about this a little bit in housekeeping. I was talking about Game Mail, how it just released that god-awful The Walking Dead game. Well, it also released this god-awful Kong Skull Island game just a few weeks ago. This publisher also, by the way, Matt, published Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, which we talked about last week, which is basically just like a shovelware Smash Brothers clone, but definitely better than these 2 games. But there was a long time there where, like, first of all, if you go back to the early aughts, pretty much every licensed game was abysmal. Pretty much all of them. They all were. And then we went through this grace period of like 10 or 15 years where people stopped paying for the license and making bad games. And some of the bigger boys started making licensed games, like the Spider-Man games on PlayStation. Ubisoft has been pretty smart licensing some stuff for its games.
Some of that was the realization that the IP can handle itself and you don't need to make a deadline of a movie or something to put something, it doesn't matter when the Batman game comes out.
Right.
As long as it's a good Batman game.
As long as it's good. That's what matters more than anything.
And for a long time, it seemed it's not like bad games went away.
Yeah.
But it was rare to see an IP of any note be part of something like this shovelware stuff, because I think for a while it was too pricey to do, and people who held these licenses were not willing to gamble them on low quality games. But I don't know how Game Mill got their hands on the Kong it's not like Kong's an active thing right now. Like
they're still making films,
there's an Apple TV show right now in the MonsterVerse, which is
they have a poor employee licensing the stuff. That's what it is. And that's what it comes down to. Whoever has that license, the person who licenses that stuff is bad at their job.
And it's just like, what's going on?
They don't understand games. They don't understand publishers to work with, studios to work with.
It's not the first bad Walking Dead game, obviously, but this is on a level that you just.
This is the worst.
It's just shocking to see it, and the fact that nobody moves in the cutscenes and things like that. It's also, if you really want a Walking Dead game of this nature, just go play State of Decay 2.
Pretty much.
That's the Walking Dead.
It's also on Game Pass.
Yeah,
where you can play it for a few pennies a month. But this has gone away until this year. And it's not even that okay, these are really bad games based on licenses. We'll sell it for $15 or $20. That I'm okay with. I don't care that much about. These games are $40, $50, $60. And that's where they start stepping over the line. There's always going to be bad games. And there will probably always be bad games based on IP. But they're trying to pass the IP costs on to the player with these games by making them $40, $50, $60. And so to see these games come back, because what happens is you have fans of this stuff that don't know games all that well. And they're like, oh my God, there's a new Walking Dead game. And they just go buy it. They don't watch GameFace.
That was always the strategy with licensed games. It's people
the uninformed consumer. Yeah.
But I think it's interesting to see this now because that kind of paranoia would have gone away. Because usually a licensed game was pretty good. And, the worst you're going to end up with was Avengers.
Right.
Yep. But then the idea
then THQ happened.
Right. I'm thinking that basically you can only get away with this for a year.
You'd think.
Because people are going to know better after a while. It's not like people went around and made Legend of Black Tiger a big hit. This is just that same level of quality but with a name you recognize.
Yeah. It's again, it's something that I hadn't seen for a long time, and to have it happen in rapid succession here in 2023 kind of caught me off guard. And again, what really trips the trigger is the pricing.
Meanwhile, they're not all terrible. There's still RoboCop.
Yeah.
Which
looked like it was gonna be a terrible license game. It sure
felt like it was gonna be part of this trend, but it wasn't.
It wasn't. Yeah, it bucked the trend.
I never played that Hellboy game. I don't know if that was
that is also a bad license game. Mm-hmm. That game also is not good at all. Yeah, we're starting to see it again. It's starting to happen again. It's a shame. I don't know why it's happening in 2023 because, again, to your point, Kong is an active license. I'm guessing Game Mill spent a good amount of money for that license, which is why they're charging exorbitant amounts of money for the game, is my guess. So, anyway, I hope this isn't a trend that continues, but it's definitely a trend in 2023.
Well, the Kong game was made in 8 months, they said?
Yeah, they said 12 months. Yeah. By a team of 15 dudes. And my guess is that Walking Dead game probably wasn't made. It wasn't 2 years, I'll tell you that much. No. Maybe it was a year with 50 people working on it. I don't know. But the bottom line is horrible licensed games have resurfaced in the games industry, and they are one of my turkeys for 2023. Matt, what's your second turkey for the year?
The PlayStation VR 2, not launch lineup, the PlayStation VR 2...
Period?
Lineup. The schedule. The lack thereof.
Yeah. You mean how they front-loaded it and put out 20 games on day one, and now we've got 4 since?
Right. I'm not saying I'm surprised by it. I said that's exactly what was going to happen. I didn't want it, but we had to review it.
Again, you picked this before I could. This is totally a turkey for me. Just PlayStation VR 2, period, is a huge freaking turkey.
Yeah, well, it still didn't solve your motion sickness problems anyway.
It didn't, no.
Like I said, I have not taken that out of the box since you gave it back to me.
Well, I'm glad I wiped the puke off of it, man.
What am I going to do with it?
I'm kidding.
I would never know.
Because you would never opened it.
Until I sold it to someone, and they're like, why is this covered in puke?
Why do you think?
Call this man.
Yeah, exactly.
I know why, and I'm not going to talk to you about it.
This to me is probably the biggest turkey of 2023.
And for a while, I kind of had some hope where like that one guy was like figuring out how to make it work on PC.
Right.
But it turns out...
And that stalled.
It stalled, and it turns out like he doesn't know if there's any way to make it work other than on AMD hardware, which because of a certain, I don't remember what the technical thing was.
There's
but
a quirk,
There's a thing that the graphics cards call for, and AMD you can do it outside of the card, and NVIDIA you can't. Like that's the closest I can, as I recall, what it was. So he's like, there's never going to be, and like basically he did like polls of things, and he's like, AMD's like 30% of the market. It's not worth going forward with this, so I'm not going to do it anymore unless someone figures out how to make it work on NVIDIA. And they have it. So that's the end of that.
I wonder if PlayStation VR 2 is why Jim Ryan is retiring.
Yeah, I don't know.
Pactor wouldn't go there.
But it's just remarkable that they had nothing past the launch.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing in there. And, this came out of Synchro or whatever that...
Well, meanwhile, though...
thing with David Hayter in it was like, but it's like, there's nothing...
Well, meanwhile,
nothing
MetaQuest
there.
3 has like 3 or 4 exclusive games that I'm actually like interested in. Like, there's the Assassin's Creed game. Asgard's Wrath 2 looks awesome. Like... The bottom line is PlayStation just didn't pay up to have great content on PlayStation VR 2. It just didn't.
It feels like what I said before it came out, where it's like, it feels like there's inertia here. That they had to get this hardware already sunk cost. They had to get
all the
out,
R&D.
Put it out, let it ride. It's somehow better than taking a write down on the whole project or whatever. And here we are, a bunch of people stuck with this. How much did that cost?
$500.
Yeah. 500.
Or wait, was it 600?
I wouldn't have bought a 600.
It was 5. It was 500. Yeah, the last one was 400. This is 5. Although, again, if you use the deals channel on SIFTD, there's a deal for PlayStation VR 2 right now that lops off like $130 or something insane. That shows you where PlayStation VR 2 is.
Yeah.
If they're lopping off $100 and some for Black Friday for this thing, they're just trying to get rid of the inventory. Because that's basically what they paid for it, the retailers.
And I know they sold through, their initial allocation of it, but like either that is only selling from Sony to the distributors, or the second allocation was way more than anybody wanted.
Yeah.
So I don't know which one of those that is, but it's this thing's dead in the water. Like this is. Turns out the V in PlayStation VR stands for Vita.
Seriously. This is a huge gaffe, but we saw it coming all along. Matt and I said it over and over and over again. Why are they making PlayStation VR 2? And if they are going to make it, why are they making it wired and tethered? In 2023, that makes no sense. That is not where VR is going at all.
I mean, I will say that even the MetaQuest has better... like the Assassin's Creed thing is interesting to me, but I saw tests of like what it looks like. It's not powerful enough.
No, it still looks like a Dreamcast. Looks like a lot of the games. Yeah.
And that Assassin's Creed will come to other stuff eventually. Maybe it'll even come to PlayStation.
I mean, it should when the exclusivity runs out.
But like,
it better.
That's like a year from now.
Games bad. Like really,
might not
really
even
bad.
And again, it'd be different if the PlayStation VR 1 stuff worked, and I could go back and revisit that running better. I would like to play Iron Man VR.
Yeah. Where's the killer app for the holidays for this, Matt? Where is it? How are you convincing people to buy this when everyone's spending money out the ass?
Most people don't even know it's around anymore.
Because it's already gone. It's out of the lexicon.
Everyone's buying the useless handheld now.
Yeah, I couldn't even get Pactor to admit that PlayStation VR 2 was a turkey at all.
There's so much pointless PlayStation hardware this year.
Yeah, and I think after this year, it's all going to go away forever.
And let's not forget, like everyone's talking about, the PlayStation Portal sold out. Yeah, so did the PSVR 2.
Right.
It sold through its allocation.
Yep. And here we are.
I mean, at least
it's one of our turkeys.
I mean, at least the Portal doesn't need games to come out for it. Like it's automatically piggybacking on the system. But it's like, man.
I know.
Like I knew it was going to be dry after launch, but even I didn't think it was going to be like, we're just not going to talk about it again, basically.
Well, again, where's the big game for the holidays to get people interested in it?
Anything.
I don't even see any TV commercials for it. Like, I watch football all day Sunday. I didn't see a single commercial for PlayStation VR 2. Not one.
No.
It's like they just gave up. I don't know. Again, it feels a little bit like this was Jim Ryan's baby. And it's out there. He accomplished it. And then literally like 3 months later, he's like, I'm retiring. Like, I don't know. It seems like a little bit too convenient that those things are lining up, but I could be totally wrong. It could be completely unrelated. It just seems a little odd. So that's Matt's second turkey for 2023. My second turkey, and I'm just going to pile on here right now on PlayStation. My second turkey for 2023 is the pathetic first-party output from PlayStation. Like, I don't know how many more times I need to bang this drum that PlayStation is the market leader, and it put out one exclusive game for its platform this year. Does anyone else hear this? Hello? Click, click, click. Is this mic on? They had one damn game for the whole year. That's pathetic. PlayStation is the leader. It's not leading. It's following. It is getting lapped. It got beat by Xbox. I never thought that day would come.
Wasn't there another thing that came out earlier this year that I didn't care about that was exclusive?
Not that I'm aware of.
No? Sometimes those things are also on PC and I don't realize it.
Maybe. But you had one big exclusive you had to look forward to all year. And yes, it did deliver, and it's great. And I love Marvel Spider-Man 2. It's one damn game.
Oh, the Horizon expansion. That's not really the same thing.
It was 15 hours. Like, you got 15 hours of exclusive entertainment out of your PlayStation 5 this year. That is, if there's a turkey, that's a freaking turkey.
I mean, I would never think of that just because I'm playing other stuff.
The third-party stuff.
I mean, the fact that I still don't have room on my hard drive on that thing is at least something.
Well, that's because I get to the end of games and I never want to delete them. I'm like, I have 2 more hours to finish this game. Like, I literally have like 6 games where I'm like an hour or 2 away from finishing them.
Final Fantasy 16, but that wasn't first party.
No. There aren't any. That's it.
Yeah.
It was a horrible year for PlayStation. And here's the thing.
Looks like it wasn't because they sold like crazy.
Right. But here's the thing. It's going to be an awful year for software next year, too, it looks like. And last year wasn't amazing. They didn't put out like a few games at least.
I don't know what happened, really. They seem to have kind of hit that thing that, well, not Microsoft didn't have the same thing because they just didn't have any developers for a long time other than the 3. But it feels like, because last year was a really good year for PlayStation exclusives. It feels like you've kind of hit this point where all the PlayStation first-party devs are like between project or on their new project.
Hey, like, look, that is on the guy who leads the first-party studios. I don't know if Scott Rhodey still does that job. He's a good dude, but you can't have gaps like this where you have nothing. Like, again, it's crazy to me that it's the leader. But again, PlayStation's the leader.
Well, again, you can have gaps like that because they are massively in first place. It doesn't matter. Like, people consider PlayStation to be video games. Like
some do. Yeah.
Because Switch is not competition really, because you're not playing the same stuff on them, and people just don't want an Xbox.
It's crazy.
Like,
it really is crazy.
Because also, if you talk to people, if you ask someone about things in terms of like kind of the exclusive versus what you can and can't play if you have a PlayStation or Xbox, a whole lot more people want to make sure they could play Spider-Man 2 than want to play Starfield.
Apparently. So, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Yeah.
So, and like, and the general sentiment seems to back that up. I wonder how long that will hold if Xbox really starts getting their exclusives lineup out the door
because
next year.
Next year for Xbox should be awesome.
It should be, yeah.
I mean, awesome. Like, there are so many games that should be done for next year for Xbox. And again, I'm looking down the pipe for PlayStation. I'm not seeing much.
Well, we don't know anything about it. I mean, you could say the same about Nintendo, but there's clearly stuff in there we don't know about yet.
I mean, we have games for Nintendo coming we know about games until June of next year.
Yeah.
That's where it stops. It stops at June.
But we don't know anything about...
After June, we don't know anything.
We don't know anything about Sony next year really at all.
No. I mean, other than all the games as a service stuff that we've talked about a bunch here on GameFace, but... It's just awful. Like, it's the industry leader, and this is the output that we're getting. Demand better, people. Ask for better. We should be getting more. We should be getting better.
I think we do get better. We just don't get more. We don't get quantity, but I do think we get quality.
Yeah. I mean, PlayStation's games, there's a reason why they have these gaps, because they spend 8 years making the damn games. But to me, huge turkey. Like, my PlayStation, for whatever reason, I've made PlayStation 5 my daily driver. I kind of regret it now.
I mean, I don't. I don't use it as my daily driver.
Yeah, your Xbox is your daily driver.
Yeah, but I'm playing the same things I could play on a PlayStation.
Do you ever play your PlayStation 5?
Only when it's something that only is on PS4.
Right. So did you play it like you played Final Fantasy 16 and this?
Played 16. I played this. I played the Yakuza games because that's just I prefer Yakuza games with a PlayStation controller because that's what they always were on.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Small little like Square stuff I do play on PlayStation because I associate it with the PlayStation controls for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But yeah, I play the Xbox more just because most stuff or PC. I mean, obviously I play a lot of PC this year because I had a new PC.
I wish I had just chosen it because it has a bigger hard drive. Now instead, here I am. I'm about to spend $150 on a hard drive expansion for my PlayStation 5.
Yeah, I mean early on that was the main reason I went Xbox because there was room on the fucking hard drive.
Right. Yeah.
And that's still kind of true, but like now it's just sort of like most stuff performs a little better on Xbox. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
That's good enough for me to move over there.
Yeah.
So anyway, that doesn't seem to matter to most people because I can afford to have both of them to play the different exclusives, but most people want to play, Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima and Horizon and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Which is not absolutely. Like if I had to pick one or the other, I would almost certainly pick also because I can play the other stuff on PC.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, next year you're gonna if you're really gonna be staring down the barrel of Hellblade 2 and maybe Avowed and who knows what else might be ready next year. We don't really
Fable. I mean, Fable should be done. State of Decay should be close to be done.
We're never seeing State of Decay again.
What do you mean we're never seeing it again?
I don't think we're going to see Fable next year.
Really?
I mean, I think we'll see it, but it's not coming out next year, I don't think.
Seems like it should be ready.
Probably should be, but I don't think it is. And then, I think we're going to get a Forza Horizon. It's time.
It is due.
Those are like clockwork.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a solid lineup, and for PlayStation, we don't really know anything. We know Last of Us 2, obviously.
I think at least one of those games as a service should launch. Helldivers will launch.
But that's
also on PC.
PC too. Yeah. But then so is Xbox stuff. So if it counts for Xbox, it should count for PlayStation.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like I don't really know. I mean, a lot of the live service stuff, I don't even know what they are. We know they're a number. There's a list of them. There's a bunch of them coming, but we don't really know. I mean, we know Marathon, which is also on PC.
Fair Games.
But just.
Concord, maybe. I don't even think that's a game as a service.
I don't know. Could be anything.
Yeah.
And like you don't even know. What's Sucker Punch doing?
Right.
Ghost of Tsushima 2's in there somewhere.
I mean, that probably will be shown off for the first time next year.
Yeah.
Be my guess. But it won't come out next year.
Maybe we'll see a little bit of what Guerrilla's working on
Sony
for the next Horizon.
That's not going to come through next year.
Does it even exist?
It does still exist. Yeah.
Or is it like a support company?
That's part of what it does, but it also reportedly has pitched something that PlayStation has given the green light to. So we'll see. But I don't anticipate any production. Guerrilla either. Like the next Horizon game is still years away.
A couple years out.
I don't know. Naughty Dog.
Naughty Dog's clearly, I mean, this is a stall tactic, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, if Factions is still in play, that might happen, but I don't care about that.
That might be the one game as a service that makes it out. I don't know. It's not looking good. So, anyway, one of my turkeys for 2023, the lack of exclusive first-party output from PlayStation's studios. Matt, what is your third and final turkey for 2023?
Normally we don't go straight up different games in this, but I felt the need to go straight up game because I'm not going to mention this in my worst of in the Game of the Year show.
Yeah.
But I feel like the need to call it out, and that's Forza Motorsport.
And I can understand why you would you would choose it.
And part of it is why when we're doing this right now, because not only am I a little shocked at how bare bones this was when it came out, but I am doubly shocked that nothing's gotten better.
Since
there's been no added features.
They don't have anything else.
There's nothing. It hasn't had an update since last month.
I know.
I mean, on top of similar, I'm still waiting for that fucking patch for Starfield. People, it's the Steam beta thing went up, but it's still nothing.
No, it went up yesterday.
Oh, did it?
Yep.
The final patch.
The official DLS patch went up yesterday. Yeah,
that took a while.
Yep.
But Forza just seems to be weird, running silent in a weird way. Meanwhile, the Turn 10 guy got promoted to the head of the whole thing or whatever. But I'm just surprised that there isn't more.
Isn't that crazy that they promoted the guy who runs the studio that made this game that took them 6 years to release a half-ass game, and you put him as the head of all your studios? Yeah. That was a huge red flag to me.
Maybe that's why it was he was busy doing all this stuff already.
Maybe. I hope, because otherwise. What are you thinking there with that hire? But
I mean, before this game, I would have said that dude's a good pick because he ran Turn 10 literally like a well-oiled machine, like
for a while,
like a high-end race car. Like they were putting stuff out every 2 years, and it was a banger every time.
Yeah,
and they gave them 6 years in the
what happened is really weird. I totally get why this is. Again, for me, it's more about how long it took. Like, if this game had only been in development for like 18 months or 2 years, I'd have been like, sure. All right.
But with this, you're like, did you start over a few times? And like, how did you have to start over a Forza game? Like, what else did you think it was? Yeah. Like, I don't understand
because ultimately what it is exactly what everybody thought it was going to be. There's no curveballs.
And it just feels so sterile and empty. And it's just like, I've never said it in my life. The Gran Turismo equivalent of this game, it has more personality. Yeah, it feels more interesting. Like it feels like a better celebration of cars and car culture and what it means to be a racer and to be driving. And it's like, and I've never said that or thought that about Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo's always dropped that ball constantly, and that was always Forza's strength.
And let's be honest, Matt.
Forza was it was about the love of car culture, and that's just not here.
Well, let's be honest. Gran Turismo 7 does still drop that ball.
It does.
That's just how bad Forza Motorsport
but at least it has a ball to drop. Like Forza didn't even bring the ball. Yeah. It's like it doesn't even know we play this sport with a ball.
Yeah, Erebus Jones is like, I didn't hate Forza. We're not saying we hated it.
I hate it.
It just there's nothing to like.
But it's just it's so meh. When I sit down to play a game, it doesn't even occur to me to open Forza.
No way. And that's I have no interest in going back and playing this game again.
That's never been true of the others.
Well, here's the other thing, Matt. It's like a lot of times if I go back to games like this, it's like, hey, I've got a spare like 20 minutes here. I'll jump online and do a cut. You can't do that in this game.
No, you got to do a qualifying race first.
You can't just jump into an online race. Screw this game. And I can't believe it took all those years to make this game. And you're right. Here we are a month later, and it's still not getting updates. What the hell is going on? Mm-hmm. I think it's a great pick for a turkey for 2023. If you're going to pick a specific game, it's hard to think of a better one from this year than Forza Motorsport.
Yeah, there's way worse games, but this was the one that made me go, because it makes me constantly sit there and go,
what happened? What? Yeah, what happened? What? How did it happen? I'm right there with you, man. I agree with you 1,000%. So Matt's last turkey for 2023 is Forza Motorsport. And my last turkey for 2023, a little bit similar to what Matt mentioned for his first one with the layoffs, but mine's a little more specific. And I'm going after Embracer. And the reason I'm going after Embracer is because whoever was running that company is a complete and total idiot. You do not put the jobs of tens of thousands of people in jeopardy over some flim-flam deal with the Saudis.
Well, you do if you're trying to run a whole grift about this whole thing. Like that's what it turned out to be. It was a giant grift to build this thing up, sell it for $2 to $4 billion to the Saudis or whoever would. I mean, look, they tried to take it to Amazon. I mean, whoever would buy it, they'd take it. And it all fell through, and now they're all left holding the bag, and thousands of people are going to lose their jobs because of it. And that's common. Like, just this morning, that guy, the leader of that crypto company, Binance, basically got, he's guilty of federal money laundering charges. You know what the fine for that they have to pay is? $4.3 billion.
Like they're ever going to pay.
And it's like, what? Why would you try to steal basically $4.3 billion? Why don't you steal $100 million and call it a day?
Yeah. Why did you need?
The scale of the greed is just. It's hard to fathom.
I'll never understand it.
It's like there's the pharaohs of old would look at you and be like, bro, you need to turn it down a little bit. Like
tone it down.
Standing in front of his pyramid, Ramses is just like, bro.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Just build one of these and call it a day. It's way less than $4 billion. Yeah.
Matt, what kind of a sociopath do you have to be to do that? To know that you have these are people's lives. Mm-hmm. Tens of thousands of people's lives all around the world.
Well, they're never going to need to face those people. They're never going to need to even think about it again.
But it's like you just don't care about them. It's crazy.
Well, they care now because they got a worthless company on their hands.
Well, yeah, but now they have to lay everybody off. But now
they'll be fine.
They'll be fine. Yeah. They'll have their golden parachute. It's the workers, the people who created the new Saints Row game. The people who are working on the new Time Splitters game that everybody can't wait to see. Those are the people who are going to pay for this. It is crazy. Like, how does somebody...
And when you liquidate all this stuff, God knows who ends up with these
I know.
IPs.
How do these people how are they not held criminally liable for doing this? This was a scam.
Yeah.
It was a scam that cost people their livelihoods.
By the way, the company's called Embracer.
Yeah.
Like, this was not hard to pin down. Yeah. We knew what this was when it was happening.
Yeah. We kept sitting here on the show and we're just like, well, how is this happening? Why are they doing? How do they acquire everything?
You might as well just call it amoeba grift.
Yeah, we were like, where's the money coming from? Mm-hmm. And it was coming from nowhere, apparently.
Yeah, it was coming from borrowed time.
Yeah.
It was coming from, like, the idea was to build it up. I mean, they bought the Lord of the Rings, for God's sake.
It's insane, Matt.
These people own the Lord of the Rings. I
know. It's so awful, man. Like, what they've done is just awful. So the CEO is not only an idiot, he's also a sociopath. Like, does not give a crap about anyone. It's just disgusting. And again, this is affecting people all around the globe. They bought so many studios, so much IP. It's just, the Abrams says Crystal Dynamics is effed. Yes.
Yeah.
They are effed. It's just...
I mean, when the time comes, someone would probably buy Crystal Dynamics off of them when they liquidate. The question is, are they going to last that long?
Yeah.
Will they last that long?
Right.
They could shutter the company before then.
A lot of these companies could shutter before then.
Yeah, that's part of the downsizing to... preserve the money that they're going to pay the people at the top.
So these people have families. They're desperate. They lose their job.
And remember, no one's replacing these companies.
Right.
Like, there are not other jobs to go to that are, like, equivalent to this. Like, Crystal Dynamics would go away.
Right.
Volition has gone away.
Yes.
They're gone. Like,
it's awful, man.
The best you're looking at is the people that got fired trying to get together some kind of funding to form another company. And then they don't have Saints Row. They don't have their IP. They don't have the reputation. They don't have the recognizable name of Volition, because Volition's one of those old venerable companies that's always been around.
Yep. Free Radical, another one. Time Splitters guys. Yep. They're gone. I mean, it's a travesty what's happened. And it's going to get worse, Matt. There's going to be more layoffs. There's going to be more studio closures.
Oh, yeah. The Embracer
when they
thing
can't find buyers for this stuff.
The Embracer thing's going to keep sending shockwaves for years, maybe.
Yes. It's insane. And they really, I guess, ultimately, because of the human element of it, they are my number one turkey for 2023. Mm-hmm. It's just the scale of what Embracer has done is almost unfathomable. It really is. It's hard to even understand the amount of people, because it's not even just the people that are working for it's their families, it's their kids, it's their spouses. It affects everyone. It's just awful.
And that's the end. I mean, they're just going to sit there and bleed out now, because the Saudis are your last resort.
And the Saudis know it now, and they're just going to sit there. They're going to watch it, as you said, bleed out until they can get it for $1.1 billion.
Or if they're even interested.
Right.
I mean, why would? I mean, it's such a slapdash collection of things that don't make sense together.
No, you're right.
Like, I don't blame anyone, them or Amazon or anyone, for not want to buy Embracer. It doesn't make any sense. Like, even when they were scooping stuff up, you're like, what's the pattern here?
Right.
Like, I don't get it.
We couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
We just sat here. We're like, what the hell's going on?
They were just acquiring content. They were basically treating corporate acquisitions like Netflix treats, like, putting content on their service.
Yep.
It was like, look at all these things on the list.
And ultimately, it's been left holding the bag. And it's not even Embracer that's holding the bag. It's all its employees. Mm-hmm. So anyway, there you go. Those are our turkeys for 2020. Usually these are, like, lighthearted and fun, but that last one, man, it just really pisses me off thinking about all the people that got screwed over by this thing. So,
and it's a very common thing, this year. It's just how it goes, Bandcamp.
Yeah.
That's...
Dissolved it, bought it, had it for a year, and everybody gets fired.
After promising, like, oh, everything's going to be fine. It's like, no, you can never, ever trust that shit.
You can't ever trust corporations, period, man. Like, one of the biggest mistakes I think I've made in my career is caring too much about the corporations that I've worked for.
Oh, yeah.
And thinking that they cared that I was getting there early and staying late, or that they cared that I was working 60 or 70-hour week. They don't.
That was one of the big adjustments that I had to make when we moved from Tech TV to G4, because Tech TV was a pretty small company.
Yeah.
Paul Allen didn't care, but the people at the top of Tech TV did care about most stuff. They were out there with us. They came from our ranks, that kind of thing. G4 was Comcast.
Yeah.
It was Comcast.
Hey, here's this guy whose dad has worked with us for 40 years. He really sucks at his job, so we need to but we can't fire him, so we need to put him somewhere. Oh, let's put him in management at G4. That's what G4 felt like to me.
Yeah.
Like, nepotism.
I mean, let's be fair. G4 was founded because the guy who made Inspector Gadget 2 was a surprise hit, And they said, we'll give you money, do whatever you want. And he said, I want to start a video game TV network.
Yeah.
That's how G4 got started.
Which is crazy.
Inspector Gadget 2
Yeah, it's nuts.
is the reason that all started.
Yeah. Yep.
And why we had to move to LA.
Yeah, because of it.
How weird. If only we knew when we were seeing those stupid trailers for that stupid movie.
Yep. So anyway, there you go. Those are our Turkey Awards for 2023, a tradition that I have been a part of now for, I don't know, like 15 years. It seems like I've been doing Turkey Awards around Thanksgiving. So hope you guys enjoyed them. It gives us a chance to kind of vent about the things that really pissed us off, at least until we do it again for our Game of the Year Awards. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about a damn game, and that game is Super Mario RPG Remake for Switch. Matt, you and I...
Missing its subtitle for some reason.
What'd you say?
Missing its subtitle.
Yeah, why did they remove that? It's
I don't know.
A little weird.
I guess you don't really need it.
Yeah.
It's harder to read on a little screen.
It's really long, too.
Yeah. Was it 7 stars?
Something of the 7 stars or something?
Yeah, something of the 7. Yeah.
It's really long. For our purposes, we're just going to call it Super Mario RPG. Both Matt and I played this on Super Nintendo when it released how many years ago now?
Was that 95?
Yeah, so 28 years ago.
Yeah, long time ago.
Wow. It was great back then, but is it still great in 2023? That's the question.
Still pretty good.
Now, it is a remake, or is it?
Yeah, it's a remake.
Yeah.
Full remake. There's nothing original in that thing.
That's true. Yeah, everything's been done over from scratch. However, I've seen better remakes.
Yeah.
I'll say that. But
they made this to kind of fit. Like, if you didn't know this was a remake of anything, you'd be very easy. Like, if you're young enough to not know Super Nintendo stuff, you could very easily just assume this is like a current side Mario project.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it looks just like all the non-mainline game stuff. It looks, it's not too far off of like the Rabbids stuff.
Yeah.
In terms of kind of character design and look and scale to some degree.
Yeah.
I do think it's very funny that Mario saves this fucking kingdom over and over again, and he lives in a one-room shack. And then you get to the fucking the castle, and there's a guest room.
Yeah.
What the? And apparently Peach was going over to Mario's house, and they're like, "Well, we thought she was with you. Like, it's been like a day." What?
Yeah.
I see how it is in the fucking Mushroom Kingdom. She's just going to her fucking booty call in a goddamn shed in the woods. What are going? Luigi didn't even live with him yet.
Yeah, you're right. Well, there is a very loose plot to this game, and it's the same plot that's in every Mario game. Princess Peach has been taken by Bowser, and you need to rescue her.
Well, except that's the plot of the very beginning, and then something else shows up and fucks up Bowser.
Yeah.
And you have to rescue Peach from whatever that is, and eventually Bowser isn't happy about it either.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Well, there's also like a side story. Like, there's this weird marshmallow dude that you meet, and he's like, it turns out he's adopted.
Well, of course, he's a marshmallow.
Right.
He's not a frog. He thinks he's a frog.
He's living with these frog creatures.
That never told him he wasn't a frog.
And then they break it to him, and he's devastated. And then one of the side things that you do in this game is to try to find his real parents.
Right.
Oh.
It's
really
weird, but
yeah,
sure.
It is what it is, I guess is a good way to put it.
It's the ancestor of Paper Mario and the Mario and Luigi Superstar games, where it's turn-based combat, but there's a timing like little mini game for every attack or every defense that can
mitigate damage,
or
more
double
damage.
your hits or whatever it's which is fun, keeps you engaged. It's and the timing on some of it is very difficult.
Oh, it's brutal. I think it's brutal. Well, first of all, as far as like the remake of this, basically they've redone the visuals, as you can see. It doesn't look like a Super Nintendo game anymore. They've made completely redone all the music in the game. But you can choose whether you want to listen to the classic MIDI sounding music or whether you want to listen to the more orchestral stuff that they produced for this new version,
which is very good.
It is, yeah.
They do a good job with it.
Yeah. And then there are some slight tweaks to the gameplay, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a pretty faithful, for better or worse, it's a faithful translation of the OG original.
Yeah, I imagine it's probably most people see it as better, because I know this is one of the highest rated Super Nintendo games by especially old school fans. I was never a huge fan. I mean, it was good. I liked it, but it was never one of my top picks.
I felt like I got my money's worth with this game big time.
Oh, yeah.
Because it lasts a while. And back then, the combat, I didn't look at it as repetitive as I do now. Like when I played it back on the Super Nintendo, when I finished it, I was never like, oh man, that kind of got grindy at the end, or that seemed really repetitive.
Because that's just how everything was.
But I got like 8 or 9 hours into this, and I was like, "Hoo boy, I don't know if I can fight the Goombas another time," because there just aren't that many enemies in the game. And back in the Super Nintendo era, like that's the way every game was. Now, to me, it sticks out that you're fighting kind of the same enemy types like over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's just RPGs.
This one seems particularly egregious.
I don't think so.
Really?
Not really. I mean, I felt the same way in Final Fantasy 16. Like, no matter how modern an RPG gets, there's always going to be a point where it's like, yeah, you again.
I thought this one was really bad, though. Because the other thing, too, about this game is, like, you'll get, like, you go through periods where you don't have to grind, and then you have to. So you'll go to a new area for the first time, and they'll just, like, whoop your ass, basically, for the first, like, few battles. You're like, yeah, I could probably, if I perfect all these battles, I might be able to beat them. But you know what? I'm just going to go back to the prior world that I played and all those enemies that I ran past because I was sick of fighting the same enemies over and over. I'm now going to go back. I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to fight those same damn enemies literally like 50 times in a row because I need to level up so that I don't get my ass kicked in the next world. Like, that was the problem, is that they force you to fight these same enemies over and over. It's like, you go to a new area, it's like the first 10 fights, it's like, okay, that's fine, I'll fight Goombas 10 times in a row. But then you realize there's like 80 more of those fights. And so for me, I would just start running past them. Because you can pick and choose what battles, for the most part.
You're supposed to run past them.
So I would just run past them. But then you get to the next world, you're like, oh no, I needed to fight those guys because I needed to level up 1 or 2 more times to actually make it this next section of the game not annoying AF. And so
I don't think I really ran into that too much.
I did. I mean, you can try to suffer through it because the thing is like you have to get the timing. If you want to fight those battles without grinding and leveling up, you have to be perfect. You can't ever miss a block because those enemies will take half your health with one hit. Yeah. And so it's either like you're perfect on the timing or you die and you have to load it all up again and do it all over again, or you can just go back and actually fight all the enemies that you ran past before. And if you do that, it's perfect. Like, this game is designed so that you need to fight every enemy.
Yeah, I pretty much fight everyone in the area once, unless there's areas where
I didn't.
There's areas where they just infinitely respawn, and you can't get
some of them
caught
they do. Yeah.
Like, there's usually infinitely respawning enemies in one section of each area so you can grind specifically, so you can grind.
So you don't have to run all the way back if you don't want to.
Which is why the spikies are infinite here. The spinies are infinite here in this area. There's I think few later there's those wolves are infinite.
There's the weird frog things.
Yeah, like, so they're there if you need them, but generally I just go through and make sure I fight each thing I see once, and that seems to be enough.
See, you're right, it is, but I got sick of fighting those same enemies way before I fought them all, and I just started running past them, and then you get to the next area, they're like, no, you need to go back and you need to fight all those guys, otherwise this next level is going to be a pain in your ass. And so I tried to fight through it the first time. I got so frustrated, I was like, screw it. I just went back and just grinded and leveled up, and then I went back to that area, and it still wasn't easy, but it was manageable.
Yeah, the issue is, like, I'm pretty good at getting the blocks perfect, but, like, I'm much worse at getting the attacks perfect, and it just takes forever. Yeah, like, because you gotta. And
the blocks are hard.
And what's
though.
his name? Is it Mallow or whatever his name is?
Mal is his name.
Yeah, like, he doesn't do any fucking damage at all. Like, he's no help.
You have to use magic. He's a magic caster. So if you use, like, his thunder spell, it wipes the map with him. But you can only use it, like, 4 times before you run out of your magic. And then you're right, he does, like, 1 hit point with his melee.
You share FP, so... And I just use them for healing, really, more than... if I use thunder on the bosses that are weak to it, so I do remember that well enough. But, like, it's just... it's better when you get more characters. Yeah. It gets better the more characters that join you.
But it also, again, as time goes on, it gets more repetitive.
I find all the cutscenes to be framed too close.
Yeah.
Like, because they're using it, they're just doing the animation in the world, and they're framing the camera down in the actual game world, and I think they're just, it's not big enough to do wider shots, and it looks really weird to me.
Yeah, the cutscenes also, I think, look bad. Like, I feel like this is like the visuals are better, obviously, than the Super Nintendo version, but it also feels like these cinematics are like CG from like 1998 or something.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think most of them are in engine.
Really?
Yeah. this was better, higher quality models, but like they mostly look in engine to me. They're the exact same locations.
I think those are CG.
I don't think they are. I think they're in engine recorded and replayed.
I don't think so. I think they look way too good. Because the other thing too is I don't think the in-game visuals look all that good. Like they're lazy. Like there's a lot of copy and paste in this where it's just the same bush over and over, and like the bush has these weird like jaggy edges around it that make it stand out. Like it obviously looks better, but I think there's more charm in the Super Nintendo one. Honestly, like this one, I don't know. To me, this looks like a project that they gave to like 40 people and gave them 18 months to make it. That's what I feel like playing this. And again, it is an improvement over the sprites from the Super Nintendo version, but I don't think this game looks good.
Yeah, it looks fine.
Yeah,
like
passable.
And it's like you could either do it like this, or you could do like basically higher quality sprites. Like really high quality, like I'm almost like I guess like an Octopath Traveler kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be cool actually.
It might be interesting to see how it looks. It's not really Nintendo's style.
That also takes a lot more work, I think, than they were willing to put into this. Someone in chat requested that we really describe how the combat works. So it's a turn-based RPG, and as you can see, you take turns attacking, and you have a melee attack with each character, but then you also have special attacks. And the special attacks are governed by magic points, basically. And as Matt said, you share those magic points across your entire party, and they don't get replenished. I haven't even figured out, Matt, when they get replenished. Have you?
They replenish based on when you level up, I think.
Right.
And you can get items that drop out of enemies that will replenish some.
Yep.
And
like honey or something.
Those are inventory items, but they can drop, like the way they drop the thing that brings your health back.
You mean mid-battle?
Mid-battle.
Yeah. And
then if you can find flowers in treasure chests and blocks that are instantly restore some of it.
Yeah. I struggled trying to anticipate. So you're in a battle, and you're like, oh, I only have 5 magic points left. I don't know when they're going to be replenished. Mm-hmm. Should I use my magic attack? Should I not?
No, you should not.
Yeah, you're right. Normally, you should not.
This is a classic RPG. You use magic attacks when you are either completely outmatched or when you're fighting a boss. That is it.
Yeah, that's pretty much when I use it. So anyway, you take turns fighting back and forth, but when you attack or when you are attacked, there's this window where you hit the attack button. So in the middle of your attack, if you tap it again, you'll do like a super attack. If an enemy is attacking you and you tap the attack button at the right time as the attack lands, you can put up a shield where it will do no damage. Or if your timing's a little bit off, it scales as far as how much hit points you lose. If you completely miss the block, even some rank and file enemies will take like half your health with landing one attack.
Oh, yeah, some of them, even early on, like you can die in 2 or 3 hits.
Like the bees in this, like the timing, and the other thing too is the timing. The blocking is, I think it's hard. I'm surprised that you think the blocking is easier because they'll juke. Like the enemy will jump in and you'll hit the attack button and they'll pause and then they'll wait to do it, or the battle will start. And before you're even like looking at the screen, like it'll fire a projectile across the screen and take half of your health, like before you even notice that it's happening. Like
I'm pretty good at reacting to that. It's the figuring out. It's remembering the timing for every different attack that I've dealt with.
Because each enemy will have like 2 or 3 different attacks.
Enemy attacks are easy. It's my attacks that I have trouble getting down for whatever reason. Especially the magic stuff. I don't think I've ever hit the bonus timing on the lightning attack.
That's funny. I have no problem doing that at all.
No, that's
you wait. All you have to do is just wait till the icon pops up.
If I wait that long, it's too late because I have more lag on my TV.
Well, I will just say this: I agree with you 1,000%. The windows that they give you for this are insane. Like I was missing both offensive and defensive timing, and I plugged my console directly into the TV, and I started hitting them every time. Mm-hmm. That's how small the window is.
Yep.
Is that if the milliseconds you shave off by eliminating like a capture card, or the fact that it's going through my receiver to my TV, that was throwing me off with the timing. That's how tight the windows are for timing in this.
Yeah, I should be clear. When I'm hitting the timing on this, I am not looking at the visual, like the yellow burst with the exclamation point. That's your timing note.
Yeah.
You wait for that at least on my TV. You wait for that. It's too late.
Yeah.
So I'm just learning where it is and hitting it, and I have an easier time of learning where the defense is rather than the attack.
I would like to watch a young person play this and see if they're able to hit the timing on this stuff. I found it very surprisingly difficult, and more difficult than I remembered from the Super Nintendo game too.
This is about I mean, the windows on that were not wide either. This about. I don't think they've really changed any of the gameplay in terms of the combat in this. I think the main change is
it could be that now we're running our console like I run it through a receiver, or I'm running it through a capture card. That all introduces lag.
I can introduce some lag, but I think the windows are the same.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
You didn't have that introduction of lag in the old ones.
That's what I'm saying.
And the only real difference in the gameplay to me seems to be that it's a little less stiff in the overworld. Like you're able to move around a little more freely.
To me, it is. You're right. You can move around more. It still sucks. Trying to jump with an isometric perspective, like if there were no shadows there, I would never be able to land on anything. You have to look for the shadows on the ground, like because it's just impossible to judge the perspective. And there's a lot of it where like you're jumping like on platforms and like.
I thought it's a little wonky. I didn't bother me because I played a whole lot of Landstalker. There was an era where you just had to do that.
It's hard to jump in 3D space with an isometric camera.
It was a hard. I mean, you got to use the shadows. Yeah, that's the only thing, and it sucks.
Yeah.
But that's the game. They didn't really change much about the game.
That's what I'm getting at. Is like there is some stuff that they could have improved in this game that they did not.
Yeah, but I mean, it's pretty much how it is. Like it's same. My issue with movement was like constantly I'd be like, okay, I want to go fight that enemy, and then the enemy would see me and run at me, and then we'd miss each other.
Yeah, they run past you. Yeah.
I'm like, no, I want to fight. Come back here. Come back here. Like that was weird. Like, it's just like it's.
I thought all the overworld controls were just wonky and janky.
It feels a little. I don't know. It feels a little off in a weird way. I get used to it, but like
I got better over time. It's still annoying AF though. But really, what the game comes down to, it is the turn-based battles. The bulk of your time playing this game, you're going to spend in turn-based battles. There's a couple like little side RPG. Things you do.
There's a 16-bit square RPG. Let's be specific.
There's like a barrel like rolling mini game that you can play. There's another goofy mini game where you're like climbing down waterfalls. Like they work better on the Super Nintendo game than they do in this. In this, they stand out as something like a relic.
Well, they were also, I mean, they were kind of amazing at the time. You know, there was an element, especially because of the art style.
Tech.
There was nothing else that looked like it.
Yeah. Now it's just this dated, like weird, goofy mini game that you play.
It's a bit of a throwback around. I mean, I think it's fine. It's a solid remake of a classic game that I don't know. I don't know how it would play without nostalgia. I will say I don't have a ton of nostalgia for this game.
I have some. I remember playing it when I was young.
I thought it was fine. I mean, again, I've never been much of a Mario fan. The highlights of the Super Nintendo for me were all like things like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI, and
which this was, but
Street Fighter, things like that.
But I guess to answer your question though, is a turn-based combat with an active element to it is the best way to describe the combat in this. And it is what you'll be doing the bulk of the time.
If you played Paper Mario or the Mario and Luigi games, you know what this is.
Yeah.
This is the predecessor to all those things.
Yeah, they try to mix in Mario's platforming and jumping into the turn-based combat, and it works. Like it's fun. It's a different way to play a turn-based RPG. It's refreshing in that way, even though the game is now 20-some years old.
And it was one of the first times they really fleshed out the characters much. Like it's where everybody talked. I mean, Mario didn't talk, which they even call out a couple times. Where they're like, "What? Just talk. Just tell me." And he does this.
Well, he does these weird pantomimes.
He transforms into other characters to tell people what happened before, and you're like, "That's so
just
weird."
Tell me, dude.
Just talk, dude.
It's not that hard. Yeah. This is a full price game. Are you okay with that?
Was it?
I mean, it's $60.
Was it? I guess. Did I pay $60 for this?
You should have. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, full price. Actually, Nintendo does release $70 games now.
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom was $70. So this is actually, I guess, cheaper than some of Nintendo's other games. But I don't know. Again, as somebody who played this, if you haven't played this, if you didn't play it 20-some years ago, I struggle to figure out whether people will like it more or less if they didn't play the original.
I don't know. I mean, I guess it beats, $60. I guess it beats $160 for the old cartridge.
Yeah. Which is crazy. But
man, that's pretty low for some of those old games.
Yeah. I had fun playing this. I haven't finished it. And I'll be honest, Matt, I don't think I'm going to finish it.
No, I wouldn't think I'm going to finish it, but I like it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I enjoyed it for a while.
It's a solid remake of a game that Probably, I mean, of the things that have not been kind of brought forward in time, this is one of them.
Yeah.
It's of all the Super Nintendo games, this is certainly one of them.
One thing I would say, though, it's a good handheld game.
Yeah.
Playing this in handheld mode, it's fine.
Big, invisible, and it probably eliminates the lag issue with the timing.
Yep, so if you're someone who plays your Switch, it's a turn-based RPG, so you can always just put your Switch to sleep and come back and wake it up whenever you want to, and it picks right up where you left off.
It's very clear about where things are.
Linear.
In the old games, they mark your goal. In the old game, you had to get to the save block to save, and this one it saves every time you change locations.
As soon as you switch to a new room, it saves.
Yeah,
so you can manually save as well.
Yeah,
but you don't have to.
Yeah, there's not a lot of point to it other than to just be sure you saved something.
Or if you're me and you want to be able to go back and capture footage of earlier parts of the game, stuff like that. But most people don't care about that stuff. So
that's the biggest change probably, is the fact that you can the save is constant
everywhere. Thank God. I would not play this if I had to wait for a save block to save every time.
And it's funny because sometimes you'll run into a save block in the world and you're like, oh, this was here, so it wasn't quite so frustrating to run 2 more screens to get to the boss.
Right.
Back when you had to save only at the blocks.
Yeah.
But now it doesn't matter because it just saves.
It just saves every time.
You enter the boss fight,
which is convenient and makes it palatable as a handheld game that it saves that consistently. So you don't have to worry about making it to the save spot to save every time. And Vincent reminds us that Tears of the Kingdom is the only $70 Nintendo game so far. Yep. So would you recommend this as a purchase, Matt?
If you like the original.
Yeah.
And feel like playing it again.
What if you're a total noob and you had never even heard of Super Mario RPG before this?
I don't know. I mean, it's probably worth playing from a historical point of view, but I think if you'd rather just go play Paper Mario or one of the Mario and Luigi's, those are.
Do you think they're better?
Available. I do think most of them are better.
I think they probably are too.
Thousand Year Door is definitely better than this.
Yeah. Agreed. Even the more recent ones, I think, are probably a little bit better.
Yeah.
Sticker Star was pretty good.
I didn't like Sticker Star at all. I think that's the worst one of these they've ever done.
Really?
It just missed the appeal to me. It got too into the sticker gimmick and didn't deliver the RPG for me. But I would say Bowser's Inside Story is better than this.
Yeah.
Longer too.
Yeah. But I did enjoy the time that I spent with it. Again, I don't think I'm going to go back and make sure that I finish it.
Also, I don't like the jump is on the B button.
Me either.
I want it over here.
Yeah, well, because all the other games have trained you for it to be over there on Switch. So there you go. That Super Mario RPG remake for Switch. I guess I'm not giving it a thumbs up. I'm kind of in the middle.
I like it fine.
I think it's a decent time waster.
I think if you want this or not.
Probably. Once you know how the battle system works, which is why I think the Abram wanted more clarification on how it worked. But if you know how it works going in and you're still interested in it, then it's plenty long enough. You're not going to feel like you got ripped off.
No. But I don't know, if you want a Mario fix, I think just get Mario Wonder.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's really the hardest problem for this game, is that the comp right now is Super Mario Brothers Wonder, which is sublime. So I feel like a lot of families are we'll buy one Mario game this holiday season, and I would wholeheartedly recommend that if you are that family that is going to buy one Mario game this holiday season, that you do buy Super Mario Brothers Wonder and do not buy this. That is one thing I will say definitively, is that I would recommend you buy Mario Brothers Wonder instead of this. Obviously, 2 entirely different games, but still, I think a lot of people are going to maybe make that decision here over the next 6 weeks or so as we get close to the holidays. So there you go, the Super Mario RPG, kind of lukewarm from both of us, but I think, Matt, you enjoyed it maybe a little bit more than I did.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about another kind of spin-off that is kind of like the base game, but also not like the base game. And that is Persona 5 Tactica. It is a turn-based strategy RPG set in the Persona 5 universe. So you still get all the same characters that you know and love from Persona 5. In fact, you get pretty much all the stuff that you love from Persona 5. You get the crew, the characters, you get the aesthetic. And let me just get the B-roll running here so you can see what I'm talking about. You get the aesthetic as far as how the menus work, the user interface, all of that stuff is basically just pulled over from the base Persona 5. Now, this game takes place at some point between the ending of the base Persona 5 and Persona 5 Strikers. This is what, the 6th spin-off of Persona 5 at this point, Matt? It's really crazy. It's hard to keep track of it all. And it's hard to keep track of, like, how does all this stuff fall together? I do think this will be the last Persona 5 game, though.
With any luck.
I think this is the final piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I am done with... Persona 5 was plenty for me in its vanilla form. I didn't need any more Persona 5 after 100 hours of that.
I think I've played 80 hours of it or something ridiculous.
I never finished it. I did. I have a save stuck at the beginning of the last dungeon, and I just
it's like impossible.
I just never went back to it. I'm just like, who cares?
Dude, that last dungeon is brutal. I must have fought it for like 20 hours to get through it.
I never even got into it. I was saved at the beginning of it, and like I just never really opened the game again.
Interesting.
I was just like, I think I've played enough of that.
Yeah. Well, as I said,
I like this thing. It's like, fuck you. Like, but why would I want to like?
This game is also really long.
The dance game was good. It was enough for me. I don't need any more spin-offs. Thank you.
This isn't as long as Persona 5, but it's still like 40, 50 hours long. And this is another game where after I had played it for like 10 hours, I was like, I'm kind of sick of the combat.
I am done with Persona until Persona 6 comes out. Like, you let me know when you're ready to do a new game.
Yeah. Well, the plot in this is the whole crew is in the LeBlanc Cafe, which you probably remember from Persona 5. It's where they always hung out. And it was kind of like the hub where you would, like, launch your calendar and figure out what you were going to do with your day and all that kind of stuff. So in the beginning of this game, they're all hanging out in the LeBlanc Cafe. An earthquake hits. And when the earthquake is over, suddenly they've been transported to some other metaverse where this character named Lady Marie, I think that's how they say her name, Marie or something. It's spelled Marie, but they pronounce it a different way.
Same thing happened to my uncle in the Loma Prieta earthquake.
Yeah. That's funny. But they end up in this metaverse. It's ruled by this Lady Marie, and she's kind of like a straight up like fascist like dictator or whatever. All the other people who are living in the metaverse with her hate her. And there's this like rebel uprising that's trying to overthrow her. And her entire goal in life, Matt, is to have the ultimate wedding.
All right.
That is Lady Marie's goal in life, is to have the ultimate wedding. And so you end up in this world with her. You get in a little bit of a scrap with her. And she brainwashes the vast majority of the Phantom Thieves to be on her side. However, you and Morgana are the two that aren't affected by it. And so it's your job then to basically save your friends, the Phantom Thieves. But you also run into this brand new character named Irina. And she is the leader of the resistance in this other metaverse. So you team up with her. She's going to help you save the other members of the Phantom of the Phantom Thieves. And then you're going to help her topple Lady Marie. So it's a symbiotic relationship. You're doing something for her, she's doing something for you, and you team up, and she becomes a part of your party and becomes a fighter in your party. She is a magic caster. And you obviously, also like Persona 5, you only get guns in this game, and you can only level up the guns. But the guns don't actually level up, you just buy new ones. All the rest of the leveling up happens automatically after each battle. It automatically distributes the points to all your different attributes. The only thing you can do is when you're in between battles, you can go back to the hub world and go to the shop. And if you have enough money, you can buy new guns and upgrade your guns that way. But for the most part, a lot of the RPG stuff in this is kind of handled automatically, which is a little bit weird, I think. So you have 3 characters in your squad. So you have 3 characters fighting in your party at a time, and as you can see here in the B-roll, you're fighting on grid-based maps. They're squares, they're not hexagons, which makes them a little bit more simple. In this game in general, if you played Persona 5, this is way more simple in like myriad ways. In almost every conceivable way, it's a more simple, more stripped-down game than what you had in Persona 5. So you have 3 character squads on the grid-based maps. There are over 100 personas in the game, and while not 100% accurate, for the most part, the personas, which is the Pokemon element of Persona, there's these mystical creatures that you can control and use in battle. For most of the characters in the game, they represent the magic casting. Now, magic casters all have magic spells, plus they can also use Persona as well. But for most of the characters in the game, if you want to cast magic, you're going to do it through your personas. And as I said, there's 100 different personas in the game. However, they have simplified the personas as well. So each persona only has 2 different abilities, but they really only have one. You can only get the second one if you go to the Velvet Room, where you can sort of fuse your own. And again, the Velvet Room is in this as well, which was a place in Persona 5 where you went to do the same thing, basically, just fuse your personas. And so that will give, if you fuse them, that will give them their second ability for each of the different personas in the game. Now, to make good for that, they give each character the ability to have 2 personas. So ultimately, you gotta have a max of 4 magic spells for each melee character, and then even more magic spells than that if you're talking about the magic casters in the game. So again, they've simplified most of it. Everything has less in this game, which I don't know what the idea behind that is. I don't know if they're maybe trying to reach a younger audience with Tactica. I mean, if you look at the visuals, obviously you can see that they're kind of chibi. All the characters have gigantic heads with like small skinny bodies, and I don't know if that's Atlus's like dog whistle for younger kids. I don't know. But the look skews a little bit younger, and the design of the game skews a little bit younger as well. And I would also argue that the difficulty in this game skews way younger. I found this game to be really, really easy.
But is Mara in the game?
What do you say?
But is Mara in the game?
Which one's Mara?
Mara is the giant penis in a chariot persona.
I haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
But again, I've only played like 8 or 9 hours of this. I have not finished or come anywhere
Mara's
near.
usually pretty deep into the game.
Oh, okay.
That's true.
No pun intended.
No. Persona's a weird thing to try to make kid-friendly.
It really is. It really is. And then instead of each party member leveling up individually, there's a team level instead of each character. And that team level also provides a level cap for persona fusions and your basic stats. Each mission you go out on, you choose your party before you go out, and then you go out and each map is literally like, I don't even know, like a quarter the size of a city block. Like they're small. And most of the objectives in each one of them is just kill all the enemies. And most of the missions have 8 enemies in them. So you can do some simple math there and figure out that each mission lasts like 8 to 10 minutes roughly. Some of the other objectives are like, hey, get to this zone in the map before the enemies catch up to you, that type of stuff. But for the most part, most mission objectives are just kill all the enemies in this little tiny map that you're on. And again, there's only like 8 of them in each mission, so it doesn't take very long to do it. And as you're also seeing here, cover is a huge part of the game. So if you're fully covered, you take no damage. If you're partially covered, you take 50% damage. And if you're out in the open, you're screwed. And that is kind of the entire strategy around the combat in this entire game, is stay in cover. If you're not in cover, you're screwed. And they give you tools to manipulate that idea. So you can fire guns at enemies, or you can cast your spells at enemies, or you can use your personas from like 20 feet away on enemies, or you can run up right next to them and perform a melee attack. And if you do that, it knocks them away. And you can be strategic with it. So if you knock them into an obstacle, it does more damage to them. So the direction that you approach them matters, because if you approach them from one side, you may be able to melee them into a wall and do a ton of damage. Now, what's most important about this melee attack is that it just knocks them out of cover. Once you knock them out of cover, it's easy to down the enemies. And as you know, if you played Persona 5, what happens once you've downed enemies? You can do your all-out attack. And that is also what happens in this game. So here you can see, there I'm knocking him out of cover, but unfortunately I killed him. But once you knock him out of cover, then it sets him up to down him, and then do your all-out attack where you and your whole team kind of team up on these over-the-top awesome attacks. And that is pretty much the crux of the entire combat in this game. Just like Super Mario RPG, sometimes if you attack enemies, you'll get like one more bonus attack. Particularly once they're out in the open, if you do that, you almost always get an extra attack on your turn. And those bonus attacks also stack. So if you keep doing it, you could literally build up like 3 or 4 attacks in a row, and you can just wipe out pretty much the whole enemy team in one turn. It's, again, like Persona 5, the idea behind the combat in this is building up, like stacking up the abilities and building combos. Somehow, they've managed to apply a lot of the aesthetics from the base Persona 5 game into this more tactical angle on it. What else is there to say about this? You can rewind and erase your turns. So if you screw up, and again, I think that's something else that makes it kid-friendly. I just sit and wait. Like, there's no time limit between turns. So I just ponder and spend as much time as I want. Kids can get a little impatient and get a little hasty. So if you do make a turn that you want to take back, you can. You just hit start and go to the menu, and you can erase a turn and start over again. But ultimately, as I said, this game is too easy. And the reason it is too easy is because of the cover system. It's not hard to make sure you're in full cover at all times. And the game is also very generous when you're in full cover of making sure you can still attack enemies that appear to be in full cover. So an enemy will be right behind a block, and you're like, oh, I can't hit him. But when you actually pull out the gun and try to shoot him, it will allow you to shoot him. So between that, making it easy to block, and then just the mechanics overall of not being all that complicated, really all you're doing is trying to get the enemies out into the open and away from cover. And once you do that, they're just sitting ducks, and they're easy to take out. And that's pretty much the strategy that you follow through this entire game. And not much changes. My biggest complaint about this is that, like, playing it at 8 hours was hardly any different from playing it the first hour. Like, it doesn't scale well. Like, instead of scaling the game so that it introduces, like, new abilities and new techniques to consider for your strategy, they just give more hit points to the enemies. And that's it. Like, I never felt like I got better at this game. I just felt like I had to chip more as the game went on. And still, with the cover system, it was easy. It just dragged out the fights more over time. It didn't make me think about them in different ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And some of the battles in this, even though like there's only 8 enemies, sometimes they'll run from you and they'll drag out the battles. You have to like chase after them. Ultimately, the more I played this, the less I liked the game. And for a game that's like 40 or 50 hours long, that is not a good sign. But as I said, if you're a fan of Persona 5, it definitely nails all the stuff that you liked about it, except for a couple things that I really liked about it that this game doesn't have at all, like exploration. There is no exploration in this game at all. Like, there's no worlds that you just go run around in and meet people or do any of that stuff. Like, the whole, like, school part of it is gone. There's no calendar. They talk about school all the time and how they're about to graduate and, like, people our age shouldn't be doing stuff like... They talk about it, but you never actually go to school. When you sit in the cafe, which is, like, the hub, there's options there, but, like, one is to, like, buy a gun or to upgrade your gun or what. Like, there's nothing, like...
Not a common thing in a Japanese cafe.
Yeah. I feel like it takes a lot of personality out of the game. And in honesty, a lot of my affinity for the characters, you don't really get to know them all that well, even though the script in this is way too wordy. In typical JRPG style, 5. It's just like it, man. It's like, get on with it. I don't need to... They literally spend 3 paragraphs writing something that could be explained in a sentence. And this game is just rife with it. After a few hours, I was just like hammering the button to go through the conversation. And I mean, literally, each conversation, you have to hit that button like 50 times, Matt, to get through that conversation. The writing is really wordy. The voice acting is great. They have brought back most of the voice actors from base Persona 5. There's a couple that aren't, and you can tell it right away. But most of them are, and they do a good job with that. And also, once again, the music in this, absolutely incredible. So those aesthetics, like you can see already, like the menus and the UI, the art, like the heart, all that stuff pulled straight out of Persona 5. They do a good job with it. However, to me, some of the more important parts of Persona 5 are completely absent, like exploration. And again, like the battles just became repetitive and just had no substance over time, and I just started to lose interest in it. So I don't think this is a mistake. I think they probably could have made a much better game that's only like 15 or 20 hours long, and that would have been totally fine. But instead, they've made a repetitive game that's 40 or 50 hours long. Some people may argue that that's the way they want it to get their money's worth out of the game, but I would rather play a really good 15 to 20 hour game than a mediocre 50 hour game. How do you fall on that, Matt?
I would rather not play this game.
You just rather not play this game at all.
Like, I don't see the point. Like, if I want something like this, I can boot up Midnight Suns again.
Yeah.
Or even Mario vs. Rabbids.
This is for fans of Persona 5.
Yeah. And
it sold really well, so there's a lot of them. But
I like Persona 5, but I don't need any more of it.
Yeah. Well, this, as you could ascertain from what I've just been talking about, isn't Persona 5 for sure. They've streamlined it a lot. But here you can see some of the menus in the LeBlanc Cafe, the stuff that you can do. Again, like your characters level on their own. The only thing you can really do is just buy a new weapon. They do. No, I think that's it. Yeah. You can see there's the sub-persona skill, so you can get 2 different skills for your second persona there. So ultimately, if you have 2 persona, you have four persona abilities total. But otherwise, you're just buying weapons and upgrading your guns and letting the chips fall where they may. So this game is on Game Pass. So if you're a Game Pass subscriber, you can go play it right now without paying any extra money. And it is available for every platform. And I mean every platform, including last gen. So it's available for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and for Switch, and for PC. But I would not recommend buying this unless you're a dyed-in-the-wool, hardcore Persona 5 fan who has already played the other 4 spin-offs. You might even understand where this falls in with the plot, actually. But here's the only thing you control in your character. So each character has like their elemental ability, and then you have one skill tree for each one of them, basically, where you can, unlock stuff. I honestly struggled to see a lot of the differences with the buffs and the stuff I was unlocking in the skill tree. And here you can see this is a LeBlanc Cafe. You basically have the ability to do the stuff you just saw, or you can talk to people, or you can just go out on your mission, and that's pretty much it. So, again, a very streamlined Persona 5, much more probably user-friendly, but also missing a lot of the stuff that I think that most people really enjoyed about Persona 5 that kept them playing for that 50, 60 hours. There's no way I could play this game for 60 hours. There's no way I would make it. But again, if you are a Game Pass subscriber, very little risk to check this out. So why not give it a go? You may find that it resonates with you and it's one of your favorite games of the year. For me, it wasn't. I don't regret the time that I spent playing it because I do like this universe and I do like these characters. But I don't see myself playing much more of it. So there you go. That's Persona 5 Tactica. And I think it will be the final Persona 5 release.
I hope so.
We've already started to hear rumbles about Persona 6. Like, we just created a game page for it like 2 weeks ago. I don't think we're too far away. Maybe at the Game Awards we get the first look at Persona 6. It's possible.
Next up, Persona 5, the boomer shooter.
Yeah, that's all that's left, pretty much.
The city builder.
Because they made like a hack and slash. They've made like the music and rhythm games from it. Like
a fighting game.
Yeah. So there's not much left. And this was it.
Where's the kart racer?
Yeah. Those are the only things left.
Kind of surprised there's
Smash Brothers game.
I'm surprised there's not like a Shin Megami Tensei kart racing thing.
Yeah.
Feels like that would translate.
Well, they lend their characters to Smash Brothers, or you could make a good Smash Brothers game out of Persona. Not just Persona 5, like all the Persona games. But yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's Persona 5 Tactica. It's available for everything, and it's on Game Pass right now. And with that, it's time to talk about our last game for GameFace 367. This is a smaller game that Matt played. You've actually been playing it for a couple weeks now.
Well, I played it last week, really.
Yeah.
We didn't have time last week.
And it's based on a book. And what I've learned, I haven't played this at all, but what I have learned about it, and what most people seem to say, is that the game is actually better than the book. Would you agree with that? And this game, by the way, is called The Invincible.
The game is more accessible than the book, because the book is written by Stanislaw Lem. And he is a very hard sci-fi cerebral type guy. He's the Invincible. I guess it's kind of one of his known things, but the main things he's known for are the books His Master's Voice and Solaris. And Solaris is mainly known because it's the Tarkovsky movie and the Steven Soderbergh remake with George Clooney.
The art style in this definitely nails it.
Yeah, and the thing about Solaris is he didn't even like Solaris very much because the movies deal very much with the characters' interactions and relations with the people. Solaris is basically about a space station, science space station that's above a planet that has a intelligent ocean. And they're trying to communicate with each other. And the ocean basically pulls these important people out of the space station people's minds and manifests versions of them on the space station. So, like, the main character in the movies, it's his wife. In the book, it's his old ex-girlfriend he was kind of horrible to and regrets some things. But the point of the book is very, very, very much about how it is impossible for these two minds to communicate. It's about trying to communicate with something that we might not even recognize as intelligent.
Okay.
And that was a constant theme in all his stuff. The movies are more love stories and like regret things. He wanted it to be a hard sci-fi exploration of different versions of intelligence trying to contact one another.
Okay.
And that is also what The Invincible is about. The book in The Invincible is about a warship called The Invincible, who arrives at this planet, and over the course of the story, it turns out that there is an intelligence on this apparently abandoned planet, and the crux of the book and the crux of the game is the characters figuring out what that is.
Okay.
So I'm not going to tell you what it is because that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
But the upshot is that the book is a very hard line examination of like communication style and what is intelligence and how do you recognize intelligence and how does intelligence recognize other intelligence and what would that even be and does it mean anything if you can't recognize, and like imagine if Moby Dick, if you've ever read that, there's this chapters that are just about whaling. Mm-hmm. It's that.
No.
Like it's basically
those are great
that.
chapters, though, by the way.
Not a lot of Ishmael, a lot more about how you skin the whale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this game takes place before the book. This is a science exploration vessel of the opposite side of the war of the Invincible. They're not a warship, but they are from the other warring faction that's fighting the Invincible. Mm-hmm. And they end up on this, they're on the way home, kind of alien style. They're on their way home from a very long, years-long exploration mission, scientific mission. And they go into their hypersleep capsules, and you play the xenobiologist character whose name is Yasna, I think. And she goes in her hypersleep capsule, and the next thing she knows, she's waking up in a spacesuit on this planet and doesn't know how she got there. And the progress of the game is basically figuring out where the rest of your crew is, how you ended up on a planet, and the last thing you remember is going to sleep, and what the hell is going on. And what you do as you piece it together, you get little flashbacks of what happened. And basically, the Invincible is going to arrive here in 13 days. They know that from intel they get before they go down to the planet, which is a memory you recover early on in the game. And they need to figure this stuff out and get gone before the Invincible shows up, because the Invincible will kill them.
Okay.
They cannot stand against the Invincible.
They have to get off the planet in 13 days.
They are a Volkswagen Beetle, and there's a tank coming. Like, but some weird shit's going on. Some of them are dead. They don't know why it's happening. Several of them are catatonic and don't seem to react to outside stimuli. There's weird structures on the planet, and she doesn't remember half of what happened before that. And there's one guy left, the leader of the whole expedition, is talking to her from the ship in orbit, and like some things are just sort of off. Mm-hmm. The closest comparison I would make would be Firewatch.
Okay. I like that game a lot.
It is a walking simulator in the truest sense of a walking simulator. You barely interact with things. The challenge is figuring out what you can interact with much of the time, and finding the next path to the next area. And there's very little. The puzzle solving is very handholdy. It's not particularly complex or interesting. Eventually, they start letting you track things on your own and sort of that. But really, you're here for the story and the slowly unfolding sort of narrative and mystery of what the hell is going on this planet, what happened to the rest of your crew. And
is the goal to rescue your crew?
The goal is to survive, more or less.
We'll get off the planet in 13 days, right?
Yeah, but like it's not really time. There's no timer on it.
Oh, okay.
It's all narrative. It's all narrative. There is no gameplay here.
Yeah,
it is. We walk from one cutscene to the next. You have a little tracker there. You have another thing that scans metal, so you can follow metal underground to like where the next thing is, and that kind of thing.
So there's no combat, no action. No, interesting.
No. Just Firewatch.
Yeah.
Just Firewatch.
Yeah. And did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's very slow. Like if you're interested, it's very slow. But it's very well presented. Like the voice acting is very good. The writing is very good. It looks better than it probably needs to. Guess how much this game costs to make?
To make? 1.5 million.
They spent $4.3 million on this game.
Wow.
And they sold something like 32,000 copies of it. It's one of the biggest bombs of the year.
Jeez.
And it's a good example of spending spending the right amount of money on the right property.
Or on the right idea, too.
The thing that baffles me is like the idea that like clearly these people are huge fans of Stanislaw Lem. To be clear, like if you haven't heard of Stanislaw Lem, it's because he's fallen kind of out of relevance recently. But in 1976, I believe it was Kurt Vonnegut said that he was probably the most widely read science fiction author on the planet. Tastes have changed. So there's a part, and like, and also as you go through this, you're seeing kind of here the video displays and some of the flashback stuff are done as like comic strips, like comic books, and
yeah, they pull up on the little tablet you have, right?
And you can like watch. There's like a prequel, there was an Invincible comic series, and apparently you unlock bits of it as you go. And the art style and that's really cool. It reminds me of like kind of a heavy metal magazine sort of style, like a Mobius sort of early '80s sort of look.
I'm surprised that they only released this for next gen, for PS5 and Xbox Series.
I don't think you could
with the budget that they had.
Right, but I think that's part of why the budget was so high. There's a lot of like big landscapes and big areas,
really?
and like I don't know if you could run this very well on the old consoles. There is scope to this that I don't. I mean, there's a big sense of being on an alien world. Not in the wondrous sense of like No Man's Sky or something, but in the whole sense of like it feels like a place and it feels like you're fucked. Like it really the hopelessness of being just you and like a little spacesuit separating you from death. And actually you can breathe the air here. Like the air here is not immediately deadly, but it has so much methane in it that after about an hour you're going to be catatonic.
Right. Which is probably what happened to the people.
It is not.
Oh, interesting.
They learned that early on where they closed their visors, and it's like, no, it's not. That's not working.
Yeah. So this is a mystery, basically.
It is a mystery game. Yeah, you're trying to figure out what the planet is. The mystery. It's like a murder mystery where a planet is the murderer. And it is interesting. It's like, but again, you have to be ready for. I mean, what you're looking at right now, this is about as exciting as it gets.
Turning over a dead body.
Yeah. And there's like sandstorms that hit, but they're all hit. They all hit at a designated time in the narrative. And, there's no randomness in it really.
Okay.
It's the randomness is whether you can figure out where the next ledge you need to climb is, right?
Yeah. Now, I probably could do the math, reverse engineer what the figures you gave me earlier. But how much did this game cost?
Oh, I think it was $40.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
It was a higher price than you might expect for this kind of game.
Maybe they realized that their clientele was small, and they're like,
somewhat. Some of it is like the budget is there.
Yeah.
I got this game because I know the book. I know Stanislaw Lem, and I was like, I'll be honest. My main question of this game was like, how the fuck did you make a video game out of that book?
Yeah.
Like that was what I wanted to see. I was like, okay, I'm in. You got me confused here. And I admit I did think it was going to be a little more of a freeform planetary exploration thing. But I'm pretty happy with the heavy narrative Firewatch.
$40 happy?
I will say that while maybe it's not worth $40 worth in terms of time to gameplay ratio to price, I can't really remember the last thing like it.
I don't.
Like it's Firewatch is my comparison, but Firewatch doesn't have nearly as much like stuff going on.
That was also quite a while ago at this point.
That was a while ago, yeah. But like Firewatch is more of a interpersonal drama story. This is a hard sci-fi. There's a lot of science in this. In terms of some of it's fudged because it's another planet, but there's a lot of stuff.
Well, it is science fiction.
Yeah,
so
but there's a lot of stuff where you gotta they're talking about this chemical makeup and that, and like they're trying to figure out a scientific way of getting through. There's a bunch of talk of like how you feel doesn't matter. We have to do this logically. That's how we get out of this situation. And then the other person will start going crazy, and they'll be like, no, you can't. Remember facts, science.
Yeah.
And so it's trying to stick with that, but they're in a situation that makes no fucking sense. So it's hard to do that. So that's kind of the tension on that. But they figured out a pretty interesting way of getting across a lot of the same ideas and the same premise as the book, without getting bogged down in what the book is. And they used the events of the book to kind of add a narrative ticking clock to like there's a reason that they need to hurry up and get out. It's not just because being on this other world is dangerous. It's like if we don't get everybody out of here in time, the enemy is going to show up and kill us all.
Yeah.
And from the book that they're gone. That doesn't happen. So clearly something happened. Who knows what happens to them that means that the Invincible shows up and there's no sign of these people. So
I think this is one of those games where people will hear you talk about it and they will know immediately whether they're into it or not.
Yeah.
This is for a very specific type of person, and I think those people are very adept at finding and ferreting out stuff that they're gonna like.
Yeah, it's if you're like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture or What Remains of Edith Finch.
Yeah.
Although it's not as puzzly as that.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Firewatch is the best comparison. It really is.
Yeah.
Like talking on the radio to somebody while you're walking through an environment
that's Firewatch.
Is half of this game.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So for $40, you would just recommend it to hard sci-fi fans, pretty much, or fans of the book, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many of those there are.
There's 33,000 of them, Matt. I think they just found out, unfortunately, that there's 33,000 of them.
Yeah, I don't remember how much it cost.
Oh, okay. So it could maybe be a little cheaper.
It's either 30 or 40.
Okay. All right. Well, sometimes if you like very specific things like this, you have to pay for them. That's kind of how it works sometimes. If you like stuff that's niche or a little bit off the beaten path, sometimes you got to pay a little bit more for it. That's just the way it is.
It is weird. Again,
supply and demand.
There's also, like, if you didn't like how weird and flimsy reality was in Alan Wake 2, I don't recommend this one either.
Yeah, I won't. I definitely won't. Like I said, you can watch it and you know if it's for you. I know this game's not for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally get it. So there you go.
All right, it's $30.
30. That's a little more palatable.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. That's the Invincible, and it's available for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series. Mm-hmm. And my guess is eventually it may come to some of those other platforms where they try to recoup their investment, maybe. But it may not look quite as good.
Yeah, it might be time to bite the bullet on that one. It might be time to put a Switch version out.
Yeah. Yep. All right. We're just about done with today's show, but before we go, here's a word from our sponsor, soundwizardry.com. Experience the realm of extraordinary audio with Sound Wizardry. With a decade-long journey in sound design, we animate your movies and video games with the breath of sound. Our wide-ranging services include sound design, Foley, sound mixing and mastering, audio implementation, dialogue mastering, and the crafting of unique sound effects from freshly recorded material. Our portfolio contains Baldur's Gate 3, Steven Universe, Alan Wake 2, Gwent, Cyberpunk 2077, and more. Visit soundwizardry.com and let us transmute your vision into an auditory marvel. So we are celebrating Thanksgiving today on GameFace, and I just want to say how thankful I am for our sponsors for GameFace. Both soundwizardry.com and LS Cream have been great for us. They've really been a lifesaver, literally a lifesaver for us, and we appreciate them so much. And again, it is Thanksgiving, and I just want to say how much I appreciate you. Wherever you're sitting, wherever you are listening to this, watching this, or whatever, I just want to look at you and say thank you for supporting us. Thank you for, if you're a patron, if you are helping us out with Twitch Prime here and there, any of the stuff that you guys do, we appreciate all of it. If you're just reviewing our show on podcast services, any of that stuff that you can do to help us, we appreciate all of it. I am so thankful for all of you people. I know I've said it before, but I really wish that I could meet all of you face to face and shake your hands. It would be awesome to be able to do that. I know that'll probably never happen. Maybe someday I'll get to meet some of you guys, but it would be really great if I could really put a face to the name for all you generous people who have kept us afloat all this time. I can't say thank you enough, and today is the day to say thank you, so thank you. I appreciate it very much. And with that, if you do want to support us, you can head to patreon.com/SIFTD. That's SIFTD. For just $4 a month, you get all our content early. You get GameFace 4 days early. You get Pactor Factor a week early. You get all our other content at least 3 days early. And that is a longer exclusivity period than most Patreons have. So you definitely get your money's worth. And as I just said, you can help us even if you don't have money. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can give us Twitch Prime. And if you're on YouTube, you can figure out how to do that down below. Or if you're listening to the show on podcast services, you can just give us a review. That helps because when people search for video game podcast in any of those services, the more reviews we have, the more likely we are to appear higher in the results. And that can make a big difference for us. All it takes is like a couple people who discover your show who are like, you know what, I want to give you a big chunk of money every month. And suddenly everything changes. You just never know when that person's going to come along or who that person is. So I just want to again say thank you. Thanks to Matt. I appreciate you, Matt, for opening up your home to do the show and just being an awesome friend. I appreciate Luna for being our co-host and our moral support. And I appreciate our chat, all you guys. And I see already there's the hype train hit level 5. You guys are awesome. You guys make the show better. You fact check us. You add context to our discussions. You ask great questions to send Matt and I off on tangents. All of this matters. This is why we've been here for 8 years. This is how we've managed to survive. It's because of everybody pulling the rope. And I just appreciate you guys so much. I still have to wake up and pinch myself sometimes and be like, am I really still doing this for a living? Like, I'm very lucky, and it's because of you. So thanks to you guys, thanks to Matt, thanks to everybody who has ever supported SIFTD in any way, shape, or form. It all matters in the end. You may have been there in the beginning. You helped get us through the first couple years, and then maybe you had to go on and do other parts a lot, whatever. I appreciate all you guys. All you guys matter. All of you guys have made a difference. So we'll be back here next Tuesday. Just a note, Thursday and Friday on the site's going to be dark. We're not doing anything. I am taking a day or two off for Thanksgiving to eat some food and watch some football. So things will be a little bit slow on the site later on Thursday, but we'll be back here next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/SIFTD for another episode of GameFace. So thanks again, everybody. Hope you guys have a great week. I hope you have an awesome Thanksgiving full of great food, great friends, great family, and great LS cream. So thanks once again to soundwizardry.com and LS Cream for sponsoring us. They make a big difference for us. And thanks to you guys. Have yourselves a great week. GameFace is up and out.